What's up, everyone? Welcome to For the Minions, the show where we talk about all the parazombies and Ethereal, all the parazombies that are left, I guess I should say. But I am happy to have Bearded Wolverine with us from the Predcast, and he's been a longtime friend of the show, longtime follower of these games, the whole 9 yards. Bearded, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks again for inviting me. I love being on these shows with you guys. So,
of course, man.
I just miss Goose and Jedi, though.
Hey,
I miss Goose. I miss Goose.
I miss Goose too, and I talk to him still pretty often. But happy to have you here. We'll talk about all three of the games, being Predecessor, Paragon The Overprime, and Ethereal. And I mean, there's not a lot, but also a lot to talk about for all three games, which is interesting.
Right.
But I will kind of preface, right, that like Bearded and I are both very passionate about these games. Right. And I will say, I'll speak for myself on this next part, but I'm sure it applies to Bearded in some extent, that sometimes that passion comes out in aggressive ways. Right. And that is not the intention necessarily, but it's just that passion kind of coming out to light. I want these games to succeed, even if sometimes I talk about them like they're terrible things, the worst things on the planet. So
I still remember that 2v1 match I had after one of your streams that got in your Discord. It was you, me, and Jelly, and like we were all like raising our voices. And it's just that, again, that passion comes out. So you raise your voice, and then the other person gets passionate about it. Like, oh, yeah, let me dig in. Like, and then we just keep going. And it was a good back and forth. And like
100%.
Nobody's opinions were changed, but everybody's opinions were taken into credit, and it was good. Great. I love a good debate, so I'm all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, that is one of my favorite moments with you, Bearded, is that stream of you and I and Jedi arguing about false loot boxes, right? And like, and everything that came with them. So I love that. And I actually think about that all the time. Whenever I think about you, I think about us fighting. So, you know, that makes sense. But we'll start with Predecessor today, then go into
that than you thinking of Windu all being trash. I mean, as long as I'm a tier up from Windu, so I'm good. I'm all about it.
There you go. So we'll start with Predecessor today. We'll go into Paragon The Overprime, and then we'll go into Ethereal last. But before we get into that, Bearded, kind of who's your favorite character across all three of the games that you like right now?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So in Predecessor, my go-to is either Xeris or Grux.
Okay.
I'm a solo lane main in that game now, so that's like my go-to. I really enjoy Xeris. I just need to get better at how to play him.
Yeah.
There's people that are saying that he's like overpowered or overtuned, and I don't see it at all. And maybe that's just because I'm bad at the game, but I literally don't see it. Like, and I've even went against Xeris that I'm just like, yeah, this guy's not doing anything much to me. So I don't understand why people are saying that. Like, I don't get it. So I just need to get better with him so I can be that OP guy that they're talking about, because I don't see it. But I love him. In PTO, it's Richter. Richter's my in every game, Richter pull is the most satisfying ability that you can hit.
So true.
Because it's not so if it was easy to hit, like it was just guaranteed, like a phase in PTO, a phase pull, it's, you know, lock on ability, like it's no fun. Like, it's all right, whatever, it is no big deal. But like, it's literally like hit or miss, and when you land that one, like, that's satisfying. There's nothing more satisfying. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Pred, PTO, Paragon, Fault, it doesn't matter. That's the most satisfying ability. So it's Richter right now. I'm grinding mastery. I'm 405 away from level 4 in his mastery on PTO.
Nice.
And then in Ethereal, it was Dante, because going into Ethereal, I was an ADC main, but like now that I've become more of a solo main, I'm looking more into the solo side of it. And it's a toss between Talos and Aron. I think I would have to say more Talos though.
Okay. Of course. Now my stuff is still bugging again, but I'm glad to hear that. Talos just got a rework too, which is super fun to play. And I love that Richter for sure is the most satisfying thing. When you land that hook, it's pixels sometimes between landing and not landing, and you know it, and it feels the best. So I love everything about that, which is super awesome. All right, so let's kind of get into Predecessor a little bit. It's already running on screen for everybody in chat, but they had their I think version 12 update is what it was, with Sereth coming out. 11.
Version 11.
You're right. Yep. With Sereth dropping, and then the new UI also dropped alongside that. So we'll kind of start out with your Sereth release thoughts. I know you're not a jungle main, and I know she's primarily a jungle, but where are you kind of falling on the spectrum of Sereth? Is she too strong? Is she not strong enough? I've seen every which way of her balance coming out of the community right now.
I think I think she's it's hard to say this word, but I think she's in a perfect spot for a hero release, right?
Yeah.
And I think for a hero release, you need to have a little bit overtuned, close to the overpowered situation, just to satisfy everybody and make everybody want to do the grind to be able to unlock her for free, because that's the way they're doing their contracts. So you want that. You want somebody to do that, just like, hey, I want to get Sarah because she's just that attractive right now. But I do think there's some things that need to be worked on her, but I've only played her once. We do our podcast customs. I was able to play her one time as a jungler because I'm not a jungle man at all. I played her one time. I went 1, 3, and 5.
I would have expected worse. As not a jungler, I would have expected worse. So you know what? Props.
Thank you. So I went 1, 3, and 5. I again, that's just on their kit. There's things with her kit that I'm just trying to understand and how to express that skill. Once I figure that out, I think she would definitely be very enjoyable. I've seen people talk about how she's like an assassin, but you want to build assassin. But I've also seen people that you like kind of like a bruiser tank assassin would be a good build on her as well, and that's more my style. So I want to try that one time. I just haven't had a chance to get in the game and do that yet, but I want to see what that's like for her.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Joe Yours Truly's video about the like bruiser offlane Sereth. I went into a game with that build, and that build is just as fun as like full-on assassin Sereth too. So like, there's definitely viability there. I think she is definitively a jungler compared to an offlaner. The offlaners just do more than she does, and she's going to really struggle to be able to get any of the kills, which she really needs to get moving in the offlane. But I think I agree with you that I think she's probably as close to perfect for a release as you could get. Right? She's not Paragon Wukong release or Moragesh release, but she's also not Phase release from Predecessor, where Phase was just kind of useless that first couple patch or so after she came out. So she's definitely struck a sweet spot. She's definitely divided the community on whether or not she's overpowered or useless. And her Q specifically, where she dashes in and does 5 ticks of damage to either multiple targets or one target, depending, has really divided people. Partly the Sereth mains from before are upset that it's not the original Q. Partly the new Sereth mains are upset that it doesn't work the way they think it does. It's just probably the most divisive patch I've ever seen come out of Predecessor for since release, honestly. And that's for multiple reasons, right? The Sereth is one reason of that, but also the UI, which we'll talk about, is a whole other part of that.
So I've seen people talking in our creator guild, the partner Discord that we have. There's people talking about how the certain things of what is able to cancel her Q and what is able not to go, cancel her Q. What goes through. Like I think a gadget hat goes through it. Like if you land it on just before she starts her Q and she finishes it, it's still gonna do damage.
Yeah.
So there's certain things like I'm not that well in depth with it, but like, so there's things with the Q, so I completely understand people having issues with it in that regard. I do agree that she can be a solo laner, but she's definitely more jungle just because of the passive. You can't take advantage of a passive on a 1v1. Like you walk through the what's that they call that little orb thing that you get that pop out after you get a kill, after you get
her passive, her little heresy bubble. Yeah,
that little bubble that pops up, you walk through it and you get your ultimate for 5 seconds, whatever it might be. If you're solo, like there's no benefit. You're not like using that ultimate on anybody, so it takes that away. But on a gank, you're getting somebody else there. You have a better chance, like such a dual lane. I think she's in a good spot. I really enjoy her play. I like her. I think they did a good job with her smoothness of how she operates. I did see some people having some bugs. Again, that's good, I say, because we're in early access, so let's report those. Let's get that figured out. Let's get it smooth and going. And you said that out of their ones that have had before in the past, like FaZe and Morgash, I no shade really thrown towards Sundown. I mean, I know I'm calling them out, but it is what it is. But like when Sundown was here, like that's the heroes that were released on his watch, and those are like that was the underpowered heroes we got. Yeah. Now, ever since he's now left and we have somebody else taking charge of that, these heroes have gotten progressively better at their release. All right. I think we still had like a Kira was kind of like a little, we'll see. And then it was kind of like we built up as we went, and every hero release has gotten better. We maybe had like a little overpowered with Twin Blast. We dialed back. Here we go. We got a better Sereth now. So I think Predecessor doing a great, shout out to the team there. They're doing a great job with these hero releases.
Yeah. Something I've talked about in the past is wanting to see the development teams for any of these games, not just Predecessor, but I think I've mentioned it specifically for Predecessor, is wanting to see them improve over time, right? And I think for the most part, I think Twin Blast is probably the only exception I'd have in recent memory to this. But for the most part, every hero release has been more and more balanced to where the game is at in that moment than it was than the one previous. I think Twin Blast is the only exception, and that was even more of an itemization thing than it was Twin Blast himself necessarily. Right. But that they probably just didn't see certain itemizations coming out that then did and were overpowered beyond all reason. So
it was before Joey was a dev. I think now that Joey's a dev, he can test all those crazy items out in different lanes and stuff with that.
When he talked about in his video about like, I wonder how Seraph got off lane build recommendations in off lane. No, good for Joe for sure. But so yeah, Seraph, I think they put her in a good spot. She's fun to play. Her E feels amazing, like that, and that's her jump and dash. It feels incredible. Especially, I've been playing Ethereal all weekend because they had an open test, and I've been playing Leah, who has a very similar ability. And Leah's felt so bad in comparison that I just kept wishing I was playing Seraph, because I was just like, I want this to be way smoother than it is, and which felt terrible. But
it's true.
But she definitely feels really great. She has had me playing much more Predecessor just since her release than anything. I think I'm level 13 in Pred right now. Maybe it's 12. So I'm already, and
You've
most of those
more Pred than I have been playing since Seraph release.
And most of those have been Seraph games, honestly. Like,
all right. Now, let me ask you this, because I know you're a huge Kalari main. I'm not saying it's because she's going to take the mantle there, but I mean, like, how did you feel against Kalari? Like, you as a Kalari main, like, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely not taking the mantle of Kalari. Kalari will always be my favorite, and that's Paragon Days stuff. But I definitely have a new appreciation for Seraph. I think her Q being changed is one of my favorite things about Seraph in Predecessor, is that her Q in Paragon drove me insane. That like
what was her Q in Paragon again?
It's where she targets a little circle on the ground and then does damage to everything that's in that circle, and she becomes invincible and stands still. And that ability always just felt like the opposite of what Seraph wants to be. I can dive into the air and then jump down on a target. I can clap my wings and kind of chase after somebody, and then I can make myself perfectly stationary and target as slow as possible multiple targets in a circle. Like, it just feels so off-putting compared to the rest of her kit that I hated it, and it made me hate, especially when I win against Seraph, and that did like quarter of my health when she used the Q. I'm like, why is that ability so good? It's just terrible. Anyway, them changing that to be more of like an active play style where she's actually going and doing something. I realize it's still one button press, but feels a lot more akin to what Seraph should be based on the rest of her kit than her previous Q did in my eyes. And absolutely love it.
I like how they made it. It's not just targetable to heroes, so you're able to get she's a jungler now, so you're able to target to any of the the Fangtooth Prime, all the jungle minions, the red, blue, all that stuff. I love how they're able to do that. It helps with the jungle clear for sure. So I really enjoyed that. The one thing I don't understand about her Q though is like the way it reads, or the way I read it, is like it tells you that the first part of damage and the first shot and the fifth shot are guaranteed. So what does that mean about 2, 3, and 4? Are those like those might miss if the person moves correctly? Can the opposing person, like what's the word I'm looking for when you kite it? Can they kite those moves? Like, what is going on there? I think
so. My understanding of how it works is that like if there's multiple targets nearby the person you clicked on or you pressed Q on, it can hit those other targets, but the first and final hit are always going on the one you clicked on.
Your first target, your initial target. Okay.
So it can hit minions if there are minions nearby. It can hit other heroes if there are other heroes nearby. But if there's nobody else nearby, all 5 hits hit the same person.
That makes sense. I'm sitting. I was like, are you able to? Like, okay, she could. I gotta move. I gotta dodge these for at least I only take 2 damage or 2 hits. Hits, not all 5. That's what it sounds like. I'm like, okay, maybe.
Yeah, and there's some like sneaky tech in there with her Q as well, of that you can choose where you land outside of her Q. So it's not just it's based on your camera position. So if you move your camera behind them, you actually can pop out behind them when you Q instead of in front of them. So there's definitely some interesting stuff to be in there. Yeah, no, it's super cool.
He's almighty. All right. Okay, well that's good to know. I mean, that's again, I'm trying to learn more skill expression with it. That makes more sense.
And something that Soul Reaper mentioned in chat is that she's untargetable. She's not immune, right? There was a lot of discrepancy in players that she's invincible. You can't do damage to her. You can't do anything to her on both the Seraph player side because they're dying in her Q, and then also the other player side because they feel like they can't do anything to counteract it. But like you said, there are some things that do persist through the Q that do damage, dot damage being one of those things. And there's nothing worse feeling than dying in her Q because you're like, man, I would have been fine. Yeah, no.
Right.
But big fan. So, I think they did a great job with her. And I'm excited to see going forward what some of those other heroes look like that have kind of that skill expression that we're seeing come from Seraph. Kwang being a big one that I think we're going to see this season. I think is going to be a huge opportunity for a meta to shine in releasing a Paragon hero, but making it feel a little more unique.
Okay. And I like what Odo says in chat too, is that he says, and it's a good for people playing against Seraph that you understand this. Jump on me and you're landing under tower.
Yep.
Because no matter what, you're gonna come out wherever that your target, the person you target as a Seraph, that's where your last hit's gonna land on them wherever they're at.
Yeah.
So if they teleport under tower or use their blink to get under tower, you're now gonna take one tower shot at least.
Oh, at least.
So that's a way to defend yourself against a Seraph that jumps on you. One of the ways. Again, like I think if you're playing Murdoch, I know Odo's an AC main. You play Murdoch, you drop a mine. She's going to pin that mine. So that'll be good as well. Now, if she hits that mine, if you hit a Q and you put a mine on her, she uses her Q to jump on you. Does her Q instantly stop because she got stunned? Does that mitigate some of that damage?
No, so she won't
finish all of it.
She won't get hit by the mine until she's out of her Q. Depending on when she hits it. So it's very weird in how much actually hits her leading up to Q, but until she officially drops out of it, the mine won't apply.
Okay. X-ADC main, mid main now? Well, how are you gonna get double? How are you gonna be the king of double kills if you're in the mid? Like that's not gonna happen.
Dude, yeah, it's she's super fun. I've had many people will flash under a tower after I Q them, and then I just sit there and regret my life as I take at least one tower shot, if not more than that.
Right.
But it's super fun. I'm excited to see where they go from here. But the next thing
let me ask you. Sorry, let me ask you real quick. The biggest thing with FTM, when you guys were talking about these games as they're coming up, is as it's shout out to Jedi, is the satisfaction of button presses. With the change of Q, where does Sarah sit with your satisfaction of button presses, and not just her Q, her whole kit?
I think almost across the board, Sarah's button presses feel really solid. That her right click being able to, the basic reset on it is super great, and I really love that.
Yes.
The Q feels great to press. It feels like it's very active, that I'm actually doing something, which is fantastic. And then it also feels like that there's a lot more agency in the ultimate than it felt like there was before necessarily.
Right.
Even though it's very similar in what the ult was, but it still feels like they did a great job bringing that up and bringing her into fun button press territory. And I think Sereth's kit from Paragon helped that a lot. So I won't give Omeda the entire credit on there. No. I think part of the kit is was developed that way in Paragon, but they did a good job of kind of keeping that in there and keeping that interesting for everything that she is.
Awesome. That's what I wanted to
hear. So the next thing that I'll talk to you about, Bearded, is the UI, which has been its own polarizing thing in the Predecessor community. But kind of want to get your rough feelings on the UI, where it sits in your eyes, if you're happy, sad, in the middle of the road with it, and kind of your thoughts there.
Definitely middle of the road with that description there. Now, I am happy about some things. I am sad about some things, but overall, just middle of the road. But I went into it with middle of the road expectations. Like, even though, and I agree with you that, and I even talked to the devs when we, on the last podcast, we had Alex on, and I even explained to him that you guys as a development team need to learn how to hype things up that need to be hyped, but not hype things up that don't need to be hyped in this situation, because I understand. I watch, I talk occasionally in the FTM Discord, and I see all people's conversations, but like I've seen legitimate gripes about the overhypeness of the UI. I went into it with the idea of like, hey, it's just UI. Like nothing about this is going to be anything like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, the best game I've ever played because of a UI. Like that's never been a thing for me. I never cared about a UI in any game that I've ever played going back. I'm 36 years old. I'm talking about any game that I played going back to Super Mario Brothers on NES. Like, I don't care about the UI. I want to play the game.
Yeah.
That's how it is for me. So that's how I went into it. It came out. I do enjoy it. It does give me like as much as this F word is a bad word, it does give me like a Fortnite menu feel. But whatever,
100%.
Fortnite's a game that's blowing up. People love the game, right? So it gives me that feel to it. I don't like how the social bar on the far right doesn't have all the access you want with it. Like you can't leave your party from that screen. You can't send your friend code from that screen. There's a couple things you can't do from that. You have to do everything from the social screen, which is like an S on the very bottom right, to open up the huge menu of all that stuff, which is fine for having that social screen's great. That screen shows you everything you need to do. Everything's there.
Yeah.
But it kind of gives you this fool's gold situation. Like, oh, everything's right here. I'm good to go. I'll do all the stuff I want to hear. And then it's like, for somebody who's never done with it, like, you've had these issues, and it's like, well, it's not as easy as you want it to be. And a UI should be user friendly, and it wasn't as user friendly as I wanted it to be. So those are the sad parts I had of it. But I do enjoy the interface with certain other menus. Like I was talking to you. The item art menu, like there, it's the same old boring item art that I can't stand. I can't wait until those placeholders get replaced, but they look better. Like, they're more of a higher definition picture. It looks better. It makes the game look better. And then the skin shop with all the different skin banners you get with that. I can't stand. Murdoch was my main for the longest time in Paragon. I cannot stand the orange or red Murdoch skin. Like, it's just like blah. Yeah. And as a Michigan fan, Ohio State's my rival, and they're like a red color. I don't want to buy a red Murdoch skin. I have no care for it. But that item art skin, like that item art for it, man, that looks really good. I want to buy it almost. Like, it kind of tempts me. All of those skin works, all the item works, or whatever, the banners you get for those are great, and I think they did a great job on that.
Yeah. I think I find myself more on the disappointed side than the middle of the road side, though I definitely understand kind of where middle of the road comes from, and I understand where disappointed comes from. The people raving about it, that part I have a much harder time understanding. That feels,
those are just Pred fanboys.
Yeah, that's what it feels like every time I read those posts. If you like, it's one of those, if you can't critique one thing about it, then you're missing the point. Like, this is not the right place. I think the hardest part for the disappointment side is how much they hyped it up and kind of what it meant for the game, right? That everything was kind of predicated on the UI of, like, the UI drops and then suddenly everything is happening afterwards.
Right.
And they hit themselves. This is completely out of like hype anything necessarily. They hit themselves with their own 1-2 punch. They announced that they are delaying, or they're making content updates less often, and then immediately after drop the okay UI. Right. And so the thing that everything's been predicated on is suddenly not the thing everything's been predicated on. And then also it was not okay. It was not great. It didn't blow people away. Right. And so it just, like I said, they hit themselves with their own 1-2 punch of bad news after bad news. And they didn't have to do that. Like, they could have announced it. They could have, even if they wanted to just get it all lumped in one, put the images of the UI that are different than what they showed us 5 months ago in that announcement of delaying content for 6 weeks instead of every 4 weeks. And then try and get it all together in one. So then the patch can drop and people have already had time to digest that and can just be happy about Seraph, or just be happy about whatever else, balance updates, balance changes, that kind of stuff. And it sucks to see that all this time went into the UI, and it just was all right. Like, it didn't blow anybody away. Nobody realistically is looking at the new UI going like, this is 10x better than the previous one. Right. Like, and that's where I think it just feels bad.
I just don't think I get exactly what you're saying, but I still feel like that it's not the UI. Again, that's where I was telling Alex. So you learn what to hype and what not to hype. You shouldn't have hyped up a UI, because the UI is not that big of a deal. It is a big deal in the sense that it now gets us in the situation where we now are able to go to console where we need to be. That's the biggest thing about it. It opens the door for console. That's what we needed to get done. And talking to Alex, it does act what they said. They said, hey, once we get the UI, we're able to get faster updates, and which we can. But Alex made the decision that we're going to actually slow down content because we want to make sure that we're actually pushing out content, which something you said they've been doing already, is every one of their updates, except for this last update. I don't remember, you said it different, and I'll give you credit on that. But every update they've had has actually improved the game. They've actually made strides to to a final outcome. They didn't make any steps back, which we've seen with Fault. Fault would you do an update, next thing you're one step forward, two steps back, and it's like, what are we doing?
Yep.
But Pred's always made that step forward. This last one, we've had some issues with people crashing. You had that issue. Other people had people crashing. So we've had issues with this update. It is what it is. It was a really big update, and the fact that it took more than 5 hours to do. Like that update,
it was a long one.
Yeah,
I
crazy on that.
I told my boss I was going to work from home so I could be home when the patch dropped. And then the patch was delayed hours and hours. And I was like, oh my gosh, I might actually be off work by the time the patch drops. Like,
yeah, it was, I saw people talking about it. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. I'm still working. I'm good to go, And then I was heading home by the time it actually dropped. Like, it works out for me. So I was worried that it wasn't going to be ready by the time we were doing, because we do our hero customs. We do our podcast hero customs every time a hero is released. And I was worried it wasn't going to be ready by that time. I'm like, man, I hope we're able to do the customs because the next day is the podcast. So we can't do it. Can't do it on Tuesday night. We're probably not going to get it done this week. It's like we try to get it done every hero release. But yeah, no, I think with what Alex is saying, he said that yes, they are now with the UI implemented. They would be able to, exactly what Robbie said, we're able to bring content faster, but they want to make sure that content is ready. They basically, it's what they're going back to the other blog post they said is they're going to under promise and over deliver. They want to make sure that everything's ready to go. Whatever feature or content that they're pushing out, they want to make sure it is good before they push it and then have issues.
Yeah. And that's, I love that you brought that up because I'm sure as well as anybody, but a bunch of people watching, that is something I've been saying for months, right? Yes. Is just under promise, over deliver. It almost felt like they were quoting me so I could read the blog post because I read that and I went damn, I'm feeling called out a little bit now. I've been saying this for a while.
I read that in your voice.
Yeah. I'm sure I read it in my voice too. It was just 100%
you read everything in your voice.
They may as well have put it in quotation marks and it would have been you know what? Fine. Right.
But and then you've been saying that, not even just Pred, you've been saying that that is as long as you've been saying it with Ethereal, you've been saying it with Fault. Fault was your biggest one you were saying that with because the Fault was having really bad issues when it came to stuff like that. So yeah, you've been saying that for a long time.
I don't feel that way about just these games either. I feel that way about my personal life. I feel that way about my I can't even think professional life, right? Like everything I do when my team at work, I tell them all the time, under promise, over deliver, right? You're never going to make anybody mad if you under promise, over deliver. It's just, of course, do you want to over promise, over deliver? Of course. Is that always possible? No. Right. And so you just go with the safety of the two options. And so, I felt definitely called out reading that and then seeing their season 3 stuff and seeing that they're delaying everything to 6-week patches instead of 4, or delaying hero releases to 6-week patches.
Instead of 4 and 2, it's 6 and 3.
Yeah. So reading that, it gave me hardcore mixed feelings because on one hand, it was that everything they've been saying about being faster with the updates after the UI and all that kind of stuff felt like they were changing that statement, but knowing that they're under promising and over delivering, right? Or that's the intent behind it, is to under promise and over deliver. Because really what that means is it's not under promise and deliver exactly what you under promised, which is what I think a lot of people are reading the season 3 roadmap as, right? Is that, this is all they're going to deliver in season 3 because this is what's on the thing. If they're really living up to under promise, over deliver, those things are the under promise. Over delivering means things that aren't on that list will come alongside it. Whether it be faster patches, whether it be additional features, whether it be whatever it may be, that's the over deliver side. And that's where I want to see them. I'm glad they're under promising. I want to see that over deliver actually happen, not just what they told us was the under promise. Right. And so I'm hopeful. I'm so glad that they're doing it. Right. And I'm excited to see where it goes from that perspective.
Yeah. And I said this a few episodes ago on Predcast that they need to start learning from other people's mistakes. And some of these mistakes I feel like they failed on. They should have learned from Fault's mistakes. Fault made a lot of these mistakes already, and they should have learned from that. Hopefully they fix that. And shout out to F6, another one of our hosts on the podcast. He's been sitting there saying, hey, giving them the benefit of the doubt. And it's all right, season 3 is where they need to prove themselves. So this is where they need to do, like you said, this is the under promising. So everything that's on that season 3 roadmap, that needs to get hit. And at least one more thing, we need to get something that's not on that roadmap gave to us. So then there we go. There's your under promise. We got all of our under promise, and there's a little bit over delivering.
Yeah.
If they don't over deliver, it's still okay, but you need to hit that, just to kind of get that trust built back up with the community, because season 1 and 2, you've lost a lot of trust. You need to get that trust built back up.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, if they miss any of their under promise, that'll just sow greater doubt from the community side of things, right? Like, you did less things and still couldn't hit the things you were saying you were trying to do, right? And this, you're right, absolutely, that this is kind of the season of proving themselves to overcome what the last 2 seasons have been from a community perspective.
And I think the 6-3 does that. I think this, and that Alex kind of alluded to it on the podcast last week, is it gives them that time, instead of them focus, like everybody like, all right, we got to get this hero done in 4 weeks, so it's ready to go, and the hero's released and ready. It now kind of gives you that 2 weeks extra, like, all right, we can work on the hero, but let's work on hero mastery, or the hero affinity is what they call it. Let's get things worked on. Let's do a week on hero affinity while we're working on the hero as well. All right, let's and whatever else it may be. It kind of gives you an extra, just a little bit more time, that you're not feeling so compressed. Like, all right, I'm rushed. I got to get all this taken care of. You kind of gives you a little extra. Even the 3 weeks of balance, it gives you an extra week in between. Like, all right, let's instead of, I know we've proven that we can do a hero every 4 weeks, so we've proven we can do balance every 2 weeks. Let's give ourselves, not push ourselves so much, and let's give ourselves some time in between to, like, all right, I'm going to do 5 hours of just balance, and then I'm going to do my last 3 hours of work. I'm going to work on this. That's a normal 8-hour day. I don't know if that's what they're doing. That was just me putting numbers in my head, but like stuff like that, it just gives you that ability to just kind of work on other features or elements of the game that need to get added. Yeah,
I completely agree with you. That's hopefully what they're doing, is they're having that extra time, right? And I've said for a long time that I think the hashtag every 3 weeks in Paragon is a huge part of what led to Paragon being what it was, the unbalanced mess, right? Like, and I realize that they don't have to do as much creation for the heroes, right? So I'm not saying that their 3 week or 3 to 4 week difference is the same thing 1-to-1 for Epic versus Omega. But definitely the crunch of forcing themselves to get a hero out every 3 weeks made a difference. Like, there's no question about that. And I think any of the devs that worked on Paragon would tell you the same thing, that was just an insane metric to have, that they didn't have the backlog ready early enough to be able to support that going into the future. And so I'm excited for them, excited for season 3. Like I said, I'm already level 12 or whatever it is on season 3. I hope that they can live up to I hope that they can live up to what they've been promising and what they've promised in season 3, and go from there and just improve it going forward.
I hate that you're saying promising. It's not a promise. It even says the roadmap. It's not a promise.
That's such BS. It's
not BS.
It is absolutely.
It's
not BS. Yes, it is. What?
It is not a promise.
Just because they're putting a disclaimer on it doesn't make it less of a promise.
It does make it. That makes it not a promise.
No, it doesn't. No,
it 100% does.
What did they say they're doing? They're saying that they're under promising. They're under promising. They used the word. Don't tell me that it's my fault because they used a word.
It is your fault. You put the word. You put the.
They didn't quote me, so it's not my fault.
They're quoting you.
No, they said under promise, that they are considering those promises.
They do consider them promises, and I don't like that.
Whether they do or not, though, that's what they are saying. That's what the community is believing.
I disagree with I disagree with the devs. I disagree with the community. Like that, like even like the way I read that roadmap and the way that disclaimer on there, it's like, hey, these are things that we're trying to get. These aren't promises. We promise these will be here in season 3. That's not what it's saying.
That is what it's saying this time around.
No, it's not. Even though the disclaimer makes that a thing. No,
they said under promise this time. This guy.
They did.
So it's on them. Season 1 and 2 aside, they said under promise this time.
I hate it. Stop using the word promise, Omega.
All right. So final questions for you, Bearded, on Predecessor before we move on. What are kind of the things that keep you coming back to Predecessor? What gets you playing the game again?
Just the gameplay loop itself. I really enjoy it. The game, like out of all of the games I've been playing, Predecessor, PTO, Ethereal, it is literally the MOBA that I want to play. the 2-tower defense, 3 lanes, 2 towers defending with 1 inhib, and the gameplay loop itself is really good. They need other things just to keep everybody. Again, I'm loyal, right? That's where I'm going to keep coming back because I'm loyal in that situation. They need other things like
you could call him loyal to a fault.
Yes, I was loyal to.
I had to go
no,
there.
You're good. I like it. I enjoy a good dad joke. So that's true though. I was literally, and that's real quick. You made a comment about other people. The Pred fanboys that say they think this UI is hugely like a success, right? Ometa's not going to improve on Yes Man.
Yep.
If you have a bunch of yes men, you're not going to make your improvements that you need to make. And I know this because I was kind of that yes man in the very beginning, early days of Fault. Like I was just happy that I was playing a para-zombie. So Fault gave me that option. I was happy with it. I wasn't going to sit there and complain about anything they were doing because I was just satisfied with what was going on. Towards the end of Fault, I realized that this game's not we need to get better, and it needs to get better. So I started becoming less of a yes man towards the end of it. And I just know going into Pred here, and even PTO, that you can't be a yes man. You got to point out the flaws. They need to fix the flaws. And we can't do that if you just sit there and say, oh, this is amazing. I love what you're doing. And you can love what they're doing, but you got to point out the flaws.
Yeah,
right?
100%. I still play all 3 games as often as I feel like playing them, but as often as I can at the same time. Right? That like I still play Predecessor all the time. I'm level 12 in less than a week. Right? I play PTO all the time. I play Ethereal whenever it's up. Right? Like I still, even if I talk crap about these games, I still play them because my feedback is going to be what makes them better. I've said many times on this show that like high tide raises all ships. If I can get PTO and Pred to be the best game they possibly can be, they're going to push each other to be better. Right? Yes. And like that's the goal that I want for those games. So that's absolutely what I look for in it, and that's what I am hoping to achieve, and for the communities to achieve in the giving actual feedback to these developers to make their games better, right? And we'll talk about it when we get to Overprime, but I think they are showing with the console release that they're taking a lot of that feedback in very quickly as well, which is cool to see.
Yeah. Now, I really want to say one real quick, though, before we go on to PTO, because you asked me what keeps me playing this game, and I told you gameplay loop. We recently just had a comment on one of our podcasts, and it was somebody that I don't know who it was by the YouTube name, but it was a comment, and it was saying that they need to fix the gameplay loop, saying that the time to kill it's not fun or whatever, blah, blah. And they recently did fix that, and I do. Maybe it's because I know what it was before, so I feel like the ADC and time to kill now is in a lot better place. I enjoy it, and then shout out to an FTM original with Fox McCloud. He sided with them and saying that the game's not enjoyable for them, and that's completely fine. I'm not every game. I can go play NBA 2K. I don't enjoy NBA 2K as much as I enjoy NBA Live.
Yeah.
All right. And I know I'm a minority in that situation, but I grew up playing NBA Live, and I prefer the way that plays over NBA 2K. There's 2 different games here for everybody. If you enjoy PTO more, you enjoy PTO more. That's for you. Like that's great. What I don't want people to be like, these games need to be the exact same because I want for Pred to be as good as PTO, I need time travel or whatever. What is that time travel? The travel mode,
Yeah.
And I need one less tower because I want a TDM game. I need Pred to be like that because that's what I want. No, if you want that, then that's what you got PTO for.
Yeah.
All right. If you want a more slower, progressive, more strategic style game, then you got Pred. Like that's it. We could all coincide in the world together, and we can just help each other get each other's games better, and that's where we need to be.
100%. That like it's play. We talked about it on an old show that I was on doing with Mangoose. It was called like Untitled Rant Show or something. I don't even remember. But we had a comment that I think about all the time. Play the game you're trying to play. Right? Stop trying to play Madden when you're playing NBA 2K. Right? Like they're not the same game. Why do you go in? I'm not going into NBA expecting football. Right? Like I'm not going into, so stop going into Paragon the Overprime and expecting Predecessor or Paragon. Stop going into Predecessor and expecting Paragon the Overprime, right? Like play the game you're trying to play. And if that's not for you, if that game you're playing is not for you, that's totally valid and totally fine. But don't try to make them something they're not because that's what you want them to be, right? And I think Paragon ending the way it did and having the community it did has hurt both of those games in that way because they're both wanting it to be something it's not, And neither game is Paragon, right? Predecessor is definitely closer to Paragon than I would say Paragon the Overprime is, but I wouldn't say that either of them are Paragon. And I'm not trying to make them Paragon. I can compare and be like, Seraph felt better in Paragon, or Seraph didn't feel better in Paragon, or Richter Hook felt better in Paragon, because I actually have comparison there that may be helpful in making a change. But just saying like, you're not Predecessor, or you're not Paragon, or you're not PTO doesn't do anything for anybody. You're trying to make the game you're playing the game it's not. And that doesn't help.
Yep.
No,
and
go ahead.
I completely agree with that. That's the situation that I'm in, and I'm guilty of it myself. I'm 100% honest with it. Like because I really enjoy one game and I want to enjoy both. And then it just, as I get older or as I play these games longer, I'm just like realizing that this isn't the way to go about this.
Yep.
You know, and if we want the iron to sharpen iron, then we need them both to succeed, and they're not both going to succeed if we all keep tearing them down and not or wanting them to be the other. Right? You know, if you got two kids, like they're going to be two different kids. Like you can't just raise one kid and have the second one like, all right, I want you to be just like this person. No, you are your own person. Like you're going to be your own. You know, that you can't get them to mimic that person to a T. Like, and that you don't want that. You know, because you want them to live their own life. Same thing when it comes to these. You want these games to grow and be better. We got to let them grow and be themselves. And you can give them opinions and ideas to fix themselves. Go ahead and do that. Like every constructive criticism is great criticism. Whether there's no bad constructive criticism in my opinion.
And I love that you said like we're guilty of it too, because 100% it happened. There is a natural feeling to doing that of like, well, I really liked Paragon. This isn't that. Let me make it Paragon, and then I'll really like this. And that's helpful and hurtful at the same time, right? And so I love that, and definitely 100% guilty of it myself too, right? And Intharth in chat also put like, people should stop being unhelpfully mean about the other game. Makes them both look bad from the outside perspective. 100%. When you go look at Steam reviews for either game, there are dozens and dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of reviews that say like Predecessor is better or PTO is better for both games, right? Like, what did that do for me? What did that boost? How did that help anything? What does that do for anyone to do anything, right? And I'm guilty of this for sure, but I would challenge everybody, or of not doing this for sure. I would challenge everybody in chat, everybody watching this, anybody, that if you're going to have a complaint about something, offer a potential solution, right? That's always the goal. And I know that's something that you try to do all the time, Bearded, is have a potential solution, good or bad solution, right? But it doesn't matter. Have some kind of solution. Feel like you put thought behind the issue and what you could do to combat it, because maybe you have the golden pill that the devs hadn't thought of that solves the problem for hundreds of people, right? And like maybe that's the perspective you have is the thing, but you need to be able to offer that criticism with some kind of feedback of how to improve it to really get to these games going in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yep. Now, two things on that, because I completely agree with that, and I actually do the same thing when it comes to the podcast YouTube comments. If I see somebody coming and just say PTO is better, then I reply that with a question, or what makes you feel that way? Yeah. Because I would rather know, me as a pred partner, I want to be able to, and I know that the devs are reading the comments, so I would love to get that information out there for them to read it. And if they don't read it, I'm able to give them the information to help them, to make this, whether, now if you literally just want PTO, if you just like that style of game, because Predecessor doesn't want to be that style of game. So if that's what it is, then that's what it is. But if you think PTO is better because their skins are better, then fine. You have 100% legitimate, I agree with you, and that's what we need to figure out. We need to get their skin game on par with their, with that. That's something that's not going to change the style of game, right? So that's stuff like that. Then
we had somebody in the FTM Discord just before we started the show today made a comment of that PTO is better. Right? Yeah. Like, get on the train because PTO is better. And so I straight up asked him, like, what? Yeah. I love PTO. I'm not, I don't need to jump on the ship because I love PTO. I think it's its own fun game when I'm playing it for what it is. But I asked him straight up, like, why do you feel that way? And his response was, well, they're on console. They have a PS5 port. It's like, okay, if that's the thing for you, totally fine. Like you're right. The game is
But
on
then I
console
challenge
first.
you, if that's your only reason, like in a month or two, Pred's gonna be. They have now. They said there's a chance they could do a CBT, but they haven't talked about a CBT at all.
Yeah.
It's the way it sounds with Pred. It's going to be released right to console, PS4 and PS5, not just PS5. Right now, CBT's only got PTO's only got PS5.
Yeah.
Right, in that counter. So if that's your only reason they're leading, like, I mean, Pred's already right there. They've already got everything approved. They just got to now release it.
Yeah.
So when it's released, that's what does PTO have then? Why are you on the PTO train? You know, and that's just my only question to that. Again,
100%.
if you're like a guy like Fox McCloud and PTO is just your style of game, 100%, then that's great. Play the game and enjoy it. You know, for me, and I know we're gonna get into it here shortly. I play PTO now just because they have mastery systems.
Mm-hmm.
If you take the mastery system out of PTO, I'm still only playing Pred.
Yeah,
that's the only reason I play it. That's just how it is. But I know we'll get further into that.
One final question on Pred before we move on is, and it's a kind of a two-part question, so we'll take it in two sections. But what has been a meta's biggest shortcoming in Pred so far? We'll start with that half, and then we'll get on to the other half.
Their biggest shortcoming so far is. Damn, that's a tough one. I would say it's the hero mastery system. You know, them not having that, not just mastery system. Sorry,
like a retention system. Yeah,
a player retention system, something that's going to help the players be there, right? Because with these early access games, and even that, like I play PTO. And PTO has an amazing tutorial system, right? You agree with that?
Yeah, especially the revamped one is pretty good.
In comparison to the two, I guess. Maybe not amazing as in like we're talking like full-fledged
industry standard.
Games,
yeah,
right?
I think they're both sub-industry standard, but PTO's is better than Predecessors in current state.
Right. So, but I play PTO, and I'm playing with people that literally, like, even though they have this amazing tutorial system, I'm playing with people that it's like, are you kidding? Like, what are you doing? You know, I do the same thing with Pred.
Yep.
So you're gonna have that with these early access games. So I get that, but player retention, something for your loyal fan base to grind for, something for your new players to get hooked onto, something, you know, both games need something like that, and the mastery system for PTO is definitely bringing that.
Yeah, and that's
so something, a player retention system. That's why I would say their most lacking point.
And that's, I think it's great that you brought that up before this too, is you said that the only thing keeping you playing PTO right now is the mastery system, right? The fact that that's the right or wrong, I'm not here to argue that, right? But it's the fact that that's what's getting you to play the game again, but you'd play Predecessor if they had mastery, or if PTO didn't have mastery, shows how powerful those systems are, right? Like
100%.
Something to earn is so powerful, and something trackable in game, right? It's not just my level at the top right telling me that I'm 12 levels into a 40 level season pass or battle pass or whatever you want to call it, right? The season rewards for Predecessor, but being able to see the bar go up after every game, that gives a rush of dopamine that gets you into the next game, right? That you're like, I got 500 points this game, let's go for 600, let's go for 700, let's do whatever it is. And there's an amount that Sereth's the hero unlock system, the hero acquisition system in Predecessor has done that for me, in that it's been something that I want after every single game. I may not look at stats, I may not look at even my level XP, I may not look at any of those things, but I'll look at Sereth's unlock progress, right? And so that is, it's the start of a retention system, but I agree with you that they definitely need more on that side. The thing that I would say for this, other than I would put the retention systems as my number one missing thing for Pred, but I also will say monetization and slash skins, right? I think the skin pricing is something to be dealt with, but I think in general, there are no skins that feel worth the prices in a lot of cases that I look at and go like, I'll spend $16 on this, right? Like the only reason I've considered buying the Sereth skin is because I've been playing so much Sereth and I just want to look different, not because I think the skin is good, right? Like, and that's something to be said, that I want them to improve their skin game. I've bought skins in PTO when I wasn't playing PTO, or for characters that I don't play in PTO, because they're just that good.
So the good news with that is I talked to Alex on the last broadcast, and he brought it up, and they are actively looking at and skin price changes, different skin acquisitions for skins. You know, like I was talking about having a in-game currency that you can grind for, something like that, like something more that you could do, because again, that's a player retention system in itself. It's just like, hey, I was able to get this, currency. I've been playing PTO more so than, and I had like 2K in-game currency, and I've been playing it so much that I got it up to 4K. I was like, oh, I'll just buy Iggy then. I'll get Iggy real quick. I was like, all right, whatever. Like, it was like that itself was like, all right, was enough. And again, I even told that to Alex, like, you guys need to have an in-game currency, because that's something, like, again, there's people that either can't afford it, or there's people that are just frugal with their money.
Yep.
But they're gonna put their time in, and that should be equal enough for you guys to count as like a currency that you're like, here you go, here, thanks for playing, this is for you.
And that's something that the FTM crew's been saying since Pred's drop, is like have something. I'm not saying have everything, I'm not saying have the best thing, have whatever, but have something that my time shows that you're rewarding that time investment, right? And again, trackable in game is the big thing, because that gives the dopamine hit. Bigger number, better person, right? If my number says 41 and yours says 40, I'm better than you. Sucks to suck, bearded, right? Like, it's just what it is, right? That's how the caveman brain out there, but all right, that's how the caveman brain operates, right? Is bigger number, better person. Right. So having ways to show bigger number, even if it's things that I can only spend on simple skins or stuff like that, definitely would help a lot. And then the flip side, what do you think their biggest achievement has been thus far for Ometa?
I know I'm going to be like the minority in this situation, but or a part, maybe I won't be, I don't know, but I think balance, like their hero balance, like you literally, like, again, I know they have a smaller hero pool than PTO right now, but you can click on any hero and that hero will be viable in their main role, and even sometimes even in their sub role. Like, you could play that hero because everything is pretty well balanced. You do have your heroes that, like, this is your top notch ADC right now, this is your meta ADC, this is your meta tank, this is your meta mid, right? But your not meta picks are viable to counter those meta picks, depending on how they're played, and that right there, I think, is something they have done really well in their time being.
Yeah, they're definitely like bright spots that you can think about, like an instance where something got a little too crazy, but then very next patch, they bring it back in line, right? You've seen with plenty of other MOBAs that's not the case. It lasts patches and patches and patches. And then finally they go like, oh, okay, well, players didn't figure it out, and so we're just going to throw players a bone and nerf the thing or whatever it may be. And meta picks are fine. Meta picks are going to happen no matter what. There is just going to be things that perform slightly better. Even if it's a 1% difference, 1% can go a long way. Right. But I agree that there's not been like super wild balance problems across the board. That, like, time to kill was super low, but that was a universal thing, that it benefited assassins a lot, but it also was just a problem across the board. ADC's late game could definitely, you'd feel that if an ADC has shot you late game, right? So they've made that change and it feels better across the board, right? Like, they've done some pretty good stuff on that side on the balance side that I'd agree with you. That's probably their biggest strength. And up until the most recent patch, I probably would still go back to patch over patch. They increase the game's quality by a number, whether it's minuscule or whether it's gigantic. They've increased the game's quality by a number.
Right. Now, with that, real quick, we'll end it on this, because this is probably their biggest patch they've ever pushed, because I've never seen a 5+ hour downtime from them. I'm interested to see their next big patch they push, not just a hero release or whatever, but like another big patch, something they're pushing through, UI, whatever it might be. I'm interested to see the improvements they make from it, or if they don't, if they do another setback, that's something I'm interested to see again, and that might be 15 patches down the road from now, whatever it might be. But when they make that push, I'm interested to see how they're able to handle that, and we're not going to have the amount of crashes we're having or whatever. I want to see that they've found out what those issues were and they've improved upon those issues.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what I want to see.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to Paragon the Overprime. So you said before, Bearded, that you've been playing the game again since Mastery came out. I've played a couple games with you and Windu in the past since that happened. But kind of where are you fallen on PTO? I know you said Mastery brought you back, but kind of what are your feelings on the game outside of that?
It wasn't Mastery that brought me back. It was a Richter. Again, because Richter is, again, that most satisfying ability in all these games I've ever played. I wanted to see how we felt. I'm like, all right, well, how's Richter just got released? Let's see how he feels in PTO. I started playing it, and then I had Mastery, so I played that Richter match, and I got Mastery. I added towards my Mastery. I'm like, oh, It was that dopamine, so the dopamine on top of me. All right, I played it. I'm like, well, now I want to continue playing, and then I was able to grind real quick through level 3. I'm like, oh man. And I made that again. I brought this up, and I 100% admit I was wrong, in the situation. But it felt like if I get to level 3 that quick, I'm gonna get to level 5 really quick.
Yep.
And they definitely changed it. And I agree with what you said in FTM Discord. They should have made it more levels and made it more linear.
Yeah.
Then it'd be like all of a sudden you get to level 3 real quick, and then all of a sudden like 4 and 5 are just gaps in time that you have to fill.
Seriously.
And that's what it is. Like I haven't hit level 5 yet, and I've been grinding. I don't have 16 hours on any hero except for Richter. Or maybe it was 13. Maybe I don't have double digits on any hero in the game. Besides, now I have double digits on Richter because I've been grinding in for mastery. But it's like it's a grind, and that's fine. I want it to be grind. I just feel like that, again, to keep that dopamine going. If you to get that level, I feel like if they would have made it 10 levels and you just gradually get those levels as you're going. Right now, that grind from level 3 to level 4, like you're not leveling up.
Dude,
it
feels
you
terrible.
see the bar moving, but that bar moving, it feels like it's moving so slow compared to what levels 1, 2, and 3 feel, right? So it's just like, okay, I'm trying to get there. I'm doing my best, but I feel like I'm walking in quicksand. Like, what's happening here?
Absolutely. And that's something, and I wonder if it's a region thing, right? Because there are several other Korean devs studios that I've played their games, and not MOBAs, right? But other games. Lost Ark is the one that comes to mind, which is an MMORPG. Lost Ark did the same thing where you've got this progression super solid, and then suddenly you hit a mountain of grind. And then that turned me off the game entirely. I put 40 hours into their game within the first week and a half of it being out. And then I hit that mountain, and I've never played the game since. Right? Like that just turned me off because I wasn't willing to go through the insane grind that they suddenly put in front of me. Right? If they made it more...
You lost to that arc of grind.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Right. If they made it more gradual and yes, you can make it really grindy, but do it in smaller increments, then maybe I wouldn't have noticed as much, or I would have been more willing to push through it because it wouldn't have been a 0 to 60 change. And I feel like that in PTO now as well, where that you get to level 3 pretty quick and you're like, great, I'm buzzing through these levels. That's why I thought there were 10 levels. When I got to 3, I was like, oh, there must be 10 levels here. I got here really fast after a couple games. There must be 10, so I can then keep kind of that progression. But knowing there's 5, and I'm still not even level 4 on Kalari either, that I just sit there and I'm like, dude, it's just too much. Like, it feels like I should just go play someone else because I can get them to 3 and get that dopamine hit much faster than I can get Kalari to 4. Right? Yes. Which may be what they're going for. I'm not part of their team, right? I don't know for sure. But it feels like that should definitely be the progression of stretch it out to 10, give me more incremental levels. Even if it's the same number of XP at the end, that can make a huge difference mentally to a lot of players.
Yes.
Right? Something...
And that's going to retain them longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Something that World of Warcraft, when it was first coming out, they didn't have rested XP. They instead had fatigue, that after you played for a certain amount of time, you got less XP because you were playing for too long. Right. And so your character earned less XP over time. This is early World of Warcraft days. What they did is they actually flipped the systems entirely. They made your base XP the fatigued XP, and then made your rested XP the normal XP afterwards. So if you stopped playing the game, you'd get more XP for 2 hours and then go to normal XP levels, right? Which flipped the mental. It actually made it worse for players, technically, because they got less XP overall for the majority of their playtime, but the words they used to describe them and how the mechanic worked completely flipped the script for players, and they loved it, right? And so sometimes that's what you have to think about is what is the mental side of the player going to be, that maybe even if it took me longer, even if they added more XP but gave me 10 levels on that mastery, I may be going like, you know what, I'm level 8, let's keep going. Like we're almost there, even though I would have been 10 or level 5 on the old system. Right? Like there are ways for them to refine that to make it feel better, even if it may be even a longer grind than it would have been before.
Agreed.
Next question on here. Oh, the Overprime console test has been going on this week from, I believe it was Tuesday, and it goes on till the 25th of September. And I've heard a lot of good things about it, in that people are happy it's on console, they're happy to be playing. I've heard a lot of terrible things about it, in that their aim assist was absolutely awful. That it's I'm not a console person, right? So I played a game on console against bots and just was like, okay, let me get the feel of how this goes. A lot of elements I really liked what they did for the console side of things compared to the PC side. I was terrible considering I'm not a console guy at all, so that made it awful. But the aim assist made it harder for me as not a console player than it did if I would have just turned it off. Right. And that felt awful. Like every time the aim assist yanked me one way or the other, it was just like, this is terrible. It felt overpowered initially and then just got more and more frustrating the more I used it. And they made a patch out this week, actually improved that a lot. I've heard a lot of good feedback from the players, but it is interesting to see where they're coming from on that side of things for the console side. And
yeah, no, I agree. The CBT being open, that's great. I have friends again, as much as I don't like playing PTO, like in the sense of how I enjoy a MOBA. I still play it because, like I said, mastery. But like as much as I don't enjoy it, I still promote it. I'm still helping it out. Like I got friends like that. You check my Discord. I literally got 2 guys that I'm like, here you go. I was able to reach out to Menace. Menace got them codes. And hooked them up. You know, like they're good to go. So they're playing and they've been grinding and they've been reporting back to me their opinions on it. The ones actually, these 2 guys I played Genesis with on PlayStation, right? So we were console and mobile gamers, right? That's that's how I met these guys. And the ones in ADC main. He's been playing PTO and he actually is considering changing rules because he played every ADC and he doesn't enjoy how it feels in PTO. Yeah. He enjoys the game. The game's fun for him. Because again, I know what Strife says. He blames smite players for that, whatever. Like he's an anti smiter. He's enjoying this game because it's a better version of smite, in that situation. So he's enjoying the game, but he just like as an ADC main, like his role just isn't fun for him to play. And it's not even just the aim assist situation. It's just like how the kits feel. He says it's pretty much the mobility of the heroes. Like there's like no escaping with these heroes in that situation. A lot of what's going on, and I think some of it's also him getting used to it. Like he's just got used to the game. Once he gets used to it, he'll figure that out. But they're enjoying it, and that's the biggest thing. They're able to play a new game on console. They're able to enjoy it, and that's what's going on. My biggest thing that I would say to Team Soul Eve is in their Red Moon release on PC and their Red Moon release on console, it's the exact same. If you don't pay attention to their announcements of how to find it, or you don't know somebody who knows how to find it, you aren't going to find the Red Moon mode, right? Yeah. If you go play Call of Duty and Call of Duty has a brand new mode out, it's going to be screaming at you right fucking there on the UI. Like right here's the new one. Click this. You want to play this, right? And if you want a new mode that you're promoting and you want them to find it, don't make it a weird little button at the bottom that you have to like a word that you don't know what it means and you click on it like, oh, that's how I changed my map. Yep. It is impossible to get to it. It's like, again, make it user friendly. Like any other game you play, a new mode, I don't care if it's Destiny or whatever game you're playing, like it's going to be screaming at you, here's the new mode, play here. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like that. It wasn't like that with PC, and I was hoping they were going to fix it, and they did the same thing for PlayStation, and I'm like, what? I'm like, this isn't, it's not, I don't have a console. I don't have a PS5, so I can't play it. If it was on PS4, I would have gave it a try to see what it felt like. It's only a PS5. I don't have one, so I couldn't play it. I'm only going off of watching people stream it or what's going on or seeing people talk about it in Discords. And it just wasn't fun, in that situation for me. I didn't like it. The fact that I saw they did the same thing. Yeah. And that's something I'll actually give as a critique to both companies for their UI side of things is it's very obvious that they never sat someone down while they're developing it, that they never sat someone down in front of their UI and said, go to the friend screen or add a friend, right? Yep. And had that person with zero knowledge try and go through the menus, right? Because both of them suffer from the problem of if you don't know better, you won't know, right? Yep. And it's universal across the board. That's something that part of the company that I used to work for was we're designing UI for CRM systems. And a lot of that is you need to make it as intuitive as possible. You need to limit the number of clicks. You need to make it as easy as possible to get from point A to point B, that if you sat someone down that didn't know anything about it and said, go here, they could do it because it's just intuitive, right? And that's not what either UI does in a lot of cases. And it feels bad for it,
right? Like, and that's, we may know better. And there's also the other side of that. Like, you and I used old Pred's UI, or the old Pred UI, right? So when the new UI comes out, there's a retraining to it to understand what the new stuff is. But if it was intuitive, that retraining wouldn't feel so difficult and feel like such a wall to get past.
It's new to you and me, just like it's new to the new people.
Yep.
You know, and that's when, and if we're having an issue with it, then new people are probably having an issue with it. And so I'm going to call these two people out. I love them both to death, though. F6 and Menace Rex, right? F6 being a partner and on the Predcast, and Menace Rex being a partner with PTO, right? F6 partner with Pred, Menace was a partner with PTO.
Yeah.
F6, that the friending and all that stuff on Pred, he says, well, you learn it, you'll figure it out. And it's like, no, if it's not, and I brought that up in the podcast. If it's not friendly for us, like for people that we've been grinding and we're gonna play this game, the new people, if it's not friendly for them, what's to stop them from like, hey, I couldn't even find out how to add my friend that we want to play the game together and we couldn't add each other. I don't want to play this.
Yeah.
Right. If it's that big of an issue, you just lost two people because like, hey, we're gonna move on to something else. Right. And I brought the same issue up with the Red Moon with Menace, and he's like, well, it's not a deal breaker for me. I'm like, no, that's not like, and I messaged him and he missed it in his chat, but I messed up like, that is the biggest yes man answer that I've ever seen from you. Like that, I get your partner or whatever, but like, it's still not a reply to that. Like, these are issues, and I brought it up to him, like, hey, you're a partner, tell your team that this is an issue, because I don't play console, but I see it. I see the issue. Mm-hmm. This is an issue. Like, let your team know, and it's not a deal breaker for me. Like, that's what? Like, that's
all right, next time, everybody here in chat heard it. Next time Bearded says, well, I don't care about that, we're gonna reference this clip right here and be like, oh, Bearded, huh? Crazy how that works, isn't it?
No, there's a difference in that situation. All right, you're talking about monetization and things like that.
Okay.
It's a different situation.
Fine. No, you're fine. But I agree with you, right? Like, you said it before on both sides, right? You got to be critical of your game if you want it to be better and you want it to succeed. You have to be critical, not doomsaying, but critical is okay. Like, you're allowed to be critical of things that you enjoy and things that you like, right? Like, it is that simple.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm looking at my list again. What to you sets Paragon the Overprime apart from Predecessor, that in positive or negative ways? What's the kind of the things that's the thing?
That's the thing. Skins. So positive. we'll let's actually. It's not just skins in a negative way either. So it's a positive is skins. There's nobody. If you're the only person that's going to tell you that Predecessor's got better skins or doing better on skins is a Pred fanboy, and we're not trusting Pred fanboys, right? As much as I'm a Predecessor quote unquote fanboy, because I do enjoy Predator. It is my favorite of all of the games. It is my favorite, but I'm not a fan.
There's a difference between being a fan of Pred and then a Pred fanboy.
Exactly, right. So the fanboys will tell you that that their skins don't mean anything, and that's wrong, right? Because PTO skins are fucking on point and great job. Yeah. Right. So their skins are there. The thing setting them behind, I guess, or in a negative aspect in that situation, I think it is the lack. And again, this is me. I'm not trying to make it into that game. I just think it's the lack of the extra tower. I think the other tower itself, it gives the team. I don't know. To me, and it's just my mindset. Again, I'm not trying to push it in and make it into a Pred game, but like, I feel like having that extra tower is like an extra body of armor. Like, you just like, all right, that tower, my T1's down, I can still go help my team rotate, whatever. But like, you T1's down, it's like, oh shit, now I can't. I literally need to, like, I can't be a solo lane. I got to be in duo lane because I got to protect my inhibitor. You know, like it's so drastic. But if you just had a T1 down, all right, I got T2, I can still go help my team. Stuff like that. I just feel like that's better in the aspect of the game. You can still keep the TDM-esque. Again, I know they've made changes to be less of a TDM style, so I only say that in the sense of difference between Pred and PTO. It's definitely still more TDM compared to Pred. So if you still want to keep that fast-paced, time or that travel mode, game, you can still do that. But having that third tower or the extra tower is what's holding them back, in my opinion. Yeah,
and I'll even talk to you about on the flip side of that, Ethereal. Ethereal had 3 towers, then an inhibitor, a different name for the inhibitor, but effectively an inhibitor, right? So they had 4 objectives in the lane compared to 3, right? And they actually removed one of the towers to bring it more in line with that 3 objective style. And it made a drastic difference for the game in a positive way, right? That they were going too far in terms of the objectives and space in the lanes and all that kind of stuff, and now needed to bring it back. And I feel like PTO is on the underside of that. That I agree with you. If they brought back the tower, I'm not going to be upset about it, right? And if that's a thing that is going to be helpful to the game, and I'm not going to be bothered by it one way or the other, I don't have any issue with them bringing back an additional tower, right? Like, to me, it's not going to make enough of a difference where I'm going to feel like they changed the game drastically for adding a tower. And similarly to what we've seen with what we're talking about with Pred fanboys, the PTO fanboys are like, no, if you add a tower, then that's terrible. That's an awful idea. Tell me why. Right. Like, I can't realistically think of a reason why the extra tower is going to make such a drastic difference to the overall state of the game that adding it back would be detrimental, even in a testing format. Even if Soliv said, like, you know what, for the next 2 weeks, we're going to throw the tower in the lanes and we'll get feedback and see how it feels. Right. And then before their next patch goes out, they pull everybody and say, like, yay tower and a tower, and see what people say one way or the other, and then go from there. Right. But I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference one way or the other. And it looks like they're gearing up to release the Agora map again, whether that's to replace Agalith or whatever. The Agnes of Light is the name of the map in PTO. We don't know yet, but I'm curious to see if the Agora map has 3 towers or 2 towers, because I'll be interested to see if they make that change.
Right. I'm curious as well. I don't think it's going to make that change. I think it's literally just going to be a cosmetic change, taking Agalith and putting it into more of the original Legacy Agora map.
Yeah.
That's what I think that change is going to be.
And I would tend to agree with you. I don't think they're going to add the tower in, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did either.
It'd be a good time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love Agora, so bring that map back.
Speaking of that, I would say I kind of want to change my answers now. The speed of the devs and how they're able to quickly change something, that's something that's a positive that PTO has.
100%.
I want to put that up there. They're able to, like, they're again, they put 2 maps into this game already. They're already working on the 3rd map as it is. Like, they make changes pretty quickly. Their reaction to feedback, aim assist on consoles being one of them, that being a bad thing. I think that was more of a bug, maybe, per se, not necessarily a bug, but like,
it's a numbers tweaks. It's relatively easy,
right, but hey, we got to adjust this, like, again, the feedback from the community was saying, hey, this isn't what we want. We got to fix this.
Yeah.
And they fixed it pretty quickly.
Even
so that, like, that's a positive on PTO.
Going back to before their final CBT and the second CBT, they completely made a new map and put it in the final CBT before they launched the game into early access. Over the course of 6 months, I want to say, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was about that.
It's pretty
and
cool. Yeah,
they turn stuff around real fast, and in a positive and negative way. All right, we said in the past of, like, kind of bringing Predecessor and Overprime together in terms of development speed, that sometimes it's like, well, if Pred could do a lot of things faster like PTO does, that'd be great, but PTO should also slow down and get that quality nailed down a little bit better before they're pushing things out so fast.
My positive for Pred is balance.
Yep.
My negative for PTO is balance. Like, there's heroes in that game and there's items in the game that just feel like it's just like, this isn't right, and they've been that way for a while. Like, I've watched, and again, I know I don't play the game that much, but I've watched people, and a shout out to Mr. Ghost, like, make these complaints before, this has been a consistent thing that the PTO's balance team isn't doing the job they need to be doing. Like, they're like, when it comes to balancing, it's pretty rough when you're going into a game and you're going up against a Mako or an Adele. Adele is super strong. It's insane. Like, I still don't know how to counter on an Adele. And if you got a good Mako, like, I don't know how to counter that either. Like, it's rough, and that makes it
FaZe
strong.
is another one. FaZe has been in the game for since the release, and her pull is still one of the most frustrating things on the planet.
FaZe is like my Kalari in PTO. Right? I am an anti-Kalari as an ADC main. When I used to be an ADC main, I couldn't stand Kalaris because she'll delete you like no other. Right? So I've always hated Kalari, especially the invisibility of her. But FaZe and PTO is so annoying, and the fact that, again, like I said, with Richter being the most satisfying, his hook being most satisfying, and then you got, like, hey, here's a free Richter hook, and you just pull it. It's like, and then they're
and she does all the damage and all the things. It's just terrible. Yeah.
It just that should not be a possibility. It's so annoying.
And to go back what I said earlier, offering a fix, make hard CC break phase link.
Yeah,
Fine.
that'll help.
Like at least
Sure.
that would be something, because then I have counterplay. It's not, oh,
Right.
she linked me, now I'm screwed. Like
Yep.
it would just feels terrible. But yeah,
It's rough.
so you kind of already answered. I was going to ask you kind of like their biggest shortcomings and their biggest achievements. But is anything coming to mind for either of those, even though you kind of answered them already?
Yeah, that's the biggest achievement. The skins is biggest achievements for sure. Shortcomings is balance. That'd be the answer to those.
And then a little bit of a different one for you on this as well. What's kind of the advantage you see PTO having over their opponents in the space? That's not even just Predecessor, over something like Smite, which is also the 3D MOBA space.
The name Paragon. The name Paragon is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Just be able to put that out there, and again, with the CBT announcement, they've been doing a lot of advertising on Facebook. You just Google the word Paragon, when you're looking at old Paragon, or YouTube the word Paragon, you're trying to look up Paragon, Terra release video, and you're going to all of a sudden now you're going to get, Paragon The Overprime,
Yep.
and then these Paragon fans are going to be thinking that their game's back, and which is it is in that regards. But like that right there, that them getting the name Paragon is probably the biggest, I don't think that's a word, but it was the biggest advantage they could have.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you.
Let me know, Chad. Is that a word? Hugest? Let me
Biggest,
know.
hugest.
Hugest.
Even though Paragon died, right? You still see stuff all the time. People saying like,
hugest is a bigger word.
you see posts, especially on the Paragon subreddit, all the time. It's like, I thought this game was dead, and people are talking about PTO, right? And all the time, because they suddenly see something that says Paragon, and then that's all they need to get into the door.
Yep.
Right. And that's where the quality side really is going to matter a lot more as they head into a full release. I know they're already free to play, but as they head into a full release sometime within the next 6 months, probably once console goes out, it's going to be hard to argue that they're not in full release state. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do to retain those people with that Paragon name, or if that Paragon name is just going to be the tie that kills them, right? It's going to be their noose effectively, because people are going to say like, this is Paragon? No, it's not. And that's okay for what Paragon the Overprime is trying to be, but for people thinking the game just came back, they're going to be in it for a huge shock at the same time.
Yep. Yeah. No, and I said when they made the announcement that they're taking the name Paragon, it just didn't make sense to me. Because they're the least like Paragon, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When it comes to these parazombies, and it's like, it just makes more sense for Predecessor to have the name, and for to come to find out all they did was ask to have it, and they were given it. Like, that's it. I'm like what? Like, that is again.
It was a power play for sure. Whether it pays off or not, it was a power play.
Now, I almost think I do think it's a positive for right now, right? But I do think it's going to be that double-edged sword, like what you were talking about. I think it's a power play in the fact that Predecessor's not able to do it, and Predecessor's not able to get that mass following to them now because they don't have that name.
Yeah.
So it's like a block in that sense. But when people do show up, and it shows just in their database and their Steam DB numbers, they peaked at, what was it, 35,000?
I think it's what it was. Yeah.
Players, and they're now at literally, these games are both sitting at like the same 800 to 900 players a month or a week right now is their weekly output and that's not the greatest numbers, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's early access. I'm okay. These numbers are okay with it. We're not sitting here with a default 150, like we were with for a while. The last, the last couple of days of default, where we're just like, all right, same 150 people playing. We're literally sitting at 800, 900 players. Like, they're both sitting at that. Like, and Predecessor doesn't have the Paragon name. So what's going on here? Like, it's we'll see how it works out in the long run, but
yeah,
it's a positive for sure for a little bit.
For the sake of the numbers, it was 32,500 was the peak player count back when it launched last December, and their 12-hour peak or 24-hour peak right now is 1,260. So yeah, they're right about the same. They're right about the same point as Predecessor is on average, right? That they're kind of hovering around the same areas. But the drop in players overall has been significantly more drastic compared to high peak for both games.
And now let me ask you, what are your thoughts? Why do you think PTO dropped more, like that drastic of a drop, compared to what Pred did? Why didn't they drastically drop as much? Like,
So-
what is your reason? What do you think that is?
Free to play definitely plays an aspect in that, right? And that it's a lot easier to try the game, right? It's a lot easier for me to go in and say, well, this game's free. What's an hour going to hurt me, right? So them having a naturally higher peak doesn't surprise me necessarily because of that. There's no barrier to entry. There's no cost. There's no, other than an hour of my time, there's no cost. I don't think that's the entire reason, right? I think that the fact that you got that many players in the door and then lost 99% of them effectively going in to the first year is not a great sign. And there's, I think, a lot of reasons for that. The game, when it launched for early access, was awful in terms of like the desync issues that you had constantly. Every time you used a movement ability, you rubber banded either back or too far forward. And like that, those are things that got me to stop playing the game. Being in lane didn't really matter as much as I wanted it to, right? There are certain things that out of a MOBA you expect, and a lot of them either were only half done or were not in the game at all. And then I think the Paragon name hurt that to an extent as well, is you got a lot of people in the door, and Paragon set a quality bar, right? Of like, the game will feel good, right? At bare minimum, even if you don't like the gameplay, even if you don't like it, it will run smoothly, it will run well, and it will feel good that you're never going to have those kinds of issues 99% of the time. And this was the direct opposite of that. So anyone coming in for the Paragon name with a certain thing in mind didn't have that in mind at all. And that's where I say like the name could be detrimental for them as well, because you're expecting something that's not what you're getting.
Right.
And I don't know that realistically they can recapture that player base in any one move that they're going to have going forward, right? They don't have the free to play access that is going to create an influx of players anymore because they're already free to play. They're going to have console will certainly help that to an extent. But once that launches, if their player base doesn't jump drastically from just the console numbers with crossplay and everything in mind, then it's going to be a very slow climb back to those higher numbers for them. There's not going to be one thing that sets them apart that then suddenly gives them 50,000 players.
Right. Nope, I agree. And you said recapture. Console isn't going to recapture. That's just capturing. That's a new capture in this situation.
I only mean recapture in terms of like a player number count, that for the devs are recapturing 32,000 players. Not recapturing the same player from before.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, and you're not wrong, but I just feel like even using the word recapture just kind of you're not like you're getting you're getting back to those numbers, so you are getting those numbers back, but it's like again, like in my head, like that's still a loss.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
100%.
You did, and it's like, man, like what do we do? Like, how do we get those people to come back and try our game now? Like, what do we do to recapture those, and how are we going to do that? And that's something that they need to work on, because now, can you be Smite and just like, hey, we live entirely off of console? Possible.
Yeah,
it's possible. But I mean, if you want to grow and be better, like with my company right now, like we work on this type of thing in the lab. Now, hey, we're going to expand. We're going to do this and this, right? We want to do both. We don't want to do. We're not going to perfect just one. We want to keep growing. We don't want to just be like, so you don't want to do that as well. So you got to figure out how you're going to recapture those people. And I think what you were saying, going back to Pred real quick, I think that's one thing that Pred kind of has on them. I know a lot of people hate on them for having the pay to the access, or what I like to call a gate, holding people back.
Yeah.
When they have that free to play situation, like once they release that gate, like open that gate, like here you go, free to play, masses are gonna come in, they're gonna try it, and they're gonna try it at a better refined state than what you did with PTO with that early access desync issue and all the other issues they had going on.
100%.
I just think it's a better choice. A lot of people are hating on it, like, hey, it's free, it's a MOBA, it should be free to play, and it will be.
Yeah, I don't think. And I don't think this is what you were saying necessarily, but I'm just stating out for them. I don't think that it is always the better choice, but I think it is proving to have been the better choice in these two games.
Yeah.
That the way that things are playing out, the paid access is proving to be a more fruitful endeavor, because they still have a large thing in their back pocket to get a bunch of players in the door that PTO now doesn't have. They have an extra card to play. They have whatever analogy you want to use for it, right? I won't say it's guaranteed, but it's practically guaranteed that player numbers will go up when they release free to play, right? Like it just is what it is. right? The people that have been holding out, new players, the whole 9 yards, friends of players that are coming in, whatever it may be, right? That it's almost a guarantee player numbers will go up. How far they go up is variable, but you will see an increase in players when a free-to-play launch happens for Predecessor, that you don't have that same chip for Paragon the Overprime anymore.
Agreed.
Any final thoughts on Paragon the Overprime before we move on, Bearded?
I'm happy to see that they made changes to their mastery skins. Some of their mastery skins, in my opinion, came up flat.
Yeah.
But they made changes, and the one change was Grim. And again, I haven't seen him in game, but it just looks like a Grim. The Grim's a default skin, with extra glowy orange. It doesn't look anything different to me.
Yeah.
So I still think some of their skins are flat. I do like the fact that they're obviously, hey, they're taking the player feedback and they're fixing it. But like Grux, like his skin is comes up flat. Some of that. I just wish that I want their mastery skins to be. When it comes to PTO, we always say their skin games are on point. I made that point in the very beginning. And when they came out with the mastery release, I was expecting
PTO level skins, yeah,
whatever, all 35, whatever, how many people they have, how many heroes they have. I was expecting all 35 of them to be like, damn, look at these mastery skins. And I'm like, nope, that's not where it came from. That's not how I felt when I looked at some of them. So
yeah,
there are a lot of them that are like, oh my gosh, these are great. And then there are some of them that like, these are good. And then there's some of them that are like, what are these? Like,
yep.
How did you fail here? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
So
and
that's just the one thing I noticed with the mastery system. That I was like, eh.
And I agree with you that some of the skins are just not as good as the others, right? They're all fairly basic in terms of they're just like a material that's in motion. Like they added some scroll or something to it, right? And they have a little bit of depth on them. Some of them have a cool like hollow look to them, but they are fairly basic for what we've come to expect from a PTO skin. And it does sound like they're the first either iteration or first step in mastery that it looks like they're going to add. Their Ranger was in the Discord talking about the Paragon Mastery crowns and what people thought of those, like, and basically admitted that there is something else that they want to do for mastery, but they're deciding if it should be crowns or they're deciding if it should be something else or whatever it may be. So I'll be interested to see where that comes from as well. But let's move on to Ethereal. And Ethereal has had their test weekend going on this weekend, both Friday, Saturday, and then today. There was like a streamer versus testers versus devs match going on that I was doing just before this, even though it was killing my stream for whatever reason.
It was.
But overall, kind of Bearded, where are you? Have you played in this test at all, or kind of where are you at on your Ethereal journey?
I got one match in.
Okay.
I tried to get another match in while you were playing. I saw you were playing, but hey, I'll queue up. I got time in between. I was watching the Lions game before the show. Lions game ended. Let me try to get queue up. I tried to queue up. I sat there for 10 minutes, and I'm like, all right, this isn't gonna happen.
Yep.
So I canceled that, and I played PTO instead. But I played one match, and it's the same thing that I had from the last play test that they had. I went up against an IT tester, and they went off on me, and it just made it unfun. Like there was no reason. I was Talos. I went up against a Kalia. Tell me that. Correct me if my name is wrong.
Kalia,
I called her a furry because I couldn't tell you what she was, but that's what she looks like to me. So in the off lane, and she's supposed to be a mage mid laner. And it was a tester that was just kind of exposing the fact that she's able to hit range, in the off lane, and she's also like pretty much uncatchable as for a melee character to be able to catch her. So it was exploiting at its finest, in my opinion, and whatever it may be, but it just wasn't fun. So I didn't play another match. And that was Friday night. Saturday night, I was doing all college football. That's, as you can tell from my background, I'm a huge college football fan.
No.
Right, exactly. So that was Saturday night. So I was like, then Sunday, I was like, well, here I'll try it a little bit today, but then I couldn't queue up. Yeah. And I noticed that they've been shutting their servers down
overnight.
Not saying it's not warranted, but they're shutting their servers down early. They made the announcement, hey, we're going to open servers at this time. We're going to close them at this time. And I've been looking, and their announcement that servers are closed are actually before the time that they said they were going to leave them open to.
Yeah, I mean,
and that might
toward that end, I queued up last night about 11 o'clock my time. I was like, oh, I'll get a game in or two before I go to bed. Because I knew there were people in playing games. I saw a couple of people on my friends list were in a match. So I knew matches were going at least. And then they announced I was 5 minutes in the queue and they're like, okay, we're shutting down servers for the night. And I went straight back to their announcement and went like, I've got 2 hours until you said you were shutting down the servers. Why are you shutting down early? Right? Like I know you just had a match running because I saw it in my friends list that people were in a match, but you're shutting servers down 2 hours early. And so I kind of went to bed disappointed. I was just like, oh, well, okay, I guess I was going to play, but now I'm not. So I just got off for the night. Right? Like, and it felt bad that they did that without any kind of warning or anything like that. And it is frustrating for sure. And there have been definitively less players at the same time concurrently playing this test than they were last test. That last test, basically anytime I queued up the entire weekend, I found a game within 5 minutes, right? That I didn't really have to wait. And there were multiple games running, 3, 4, 5 games running at the same time. And I was like, this is great. It feels like I can get into a match. I can go eat lunch and come back. And I'm not going to wait for whatever match that's going right now to end to hopefully get a chance to get into the queue, right? Like, and that's what it feels like this test is that there's one game going on average. And if you miss that game, you're out 30 to 40 minutes until the next game pops.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's it's really what it comes down to. Because I am quote unquote partnered with them. I guess I'm not quoting anything because that's never been said, but like, I'm not, again, whatever this quotation marks means, because I'm not like, it's not true, but it is that like, I'm partnered with them. I'm a content creator for them, but like, so I'm in their IT tester Discord and I see them talking and I've reached out to them and say, hey, is there queues popping? Right? Because I was in queue for a little bit. Like, oh yeah, we're at one game going right now and we're wait for the next one. It's almost done. You'll get the next queue pop. All right. And I queue popped, and I got into a match. And it just, like I said, it wasn't just the me going against an IT tester. It was also one thing. So I want to like give them praise, because if you go into their collection, you click on the hero, you can click on the abilities, and there's YouTube videos of how their abilities work. Mm-hmm. So it helps you understand how that hero or that myth is going to operate. Right? I watched all of Talos's videos because I know he got a rework. So I mean, let me see what's going on with him. All right. So his R is a little fucking spin move, and it pulls people into him. You watch the video, and it pulls them right to him. Like right next to his body. So you hit his R, and then your Q is set right up. Well, I go into a match. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going against a ranged hero. Let me build myself up here. All right, I unlocked my R. Let me pull her into me. I'll hit her with my Q. Hit that R, and she moved like maybe a foot. I'm like, what? Like, why did she not come to, like, the video says she's gonna come right to me. Why did she not come right to me? Like, what was that? Like that. So like that needs to get fixed in that situation, because that made me think that I had the ability to take a ranged character and bring him right to me, and well, now you're screwed because I'm locked in on you. Yeah,
now you're in melee range of a melee character. Yeah. Right. And it's hard to say if that's a balance change, if that's the other character did something that then negated part of the pull, if that's an inconsistency just in that they weren't where you thought they were because the server was desynced. Like, the hard part with Ethereal is you're never sure if it was your fault or the server's fault.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing worse than feeling like you're out of control in these games. And there are a lot of times where I hit an ability that I definitively shouldn't have. It happened in one of the creator games, or whatever they were calling those games earlier, that I definitively on my screen missed somebody. Like, there was no question about it. But when I landed on Leah, they got knocked up in the air, and I was like, they were not anywhere near my knockup. Right. And so for their side of things, it doesn't look like they were in it probably, and they got knocked up anyway. Right. So I benefited, but I'm sure someone didn't at that same time. Right. And there were plenty of times that I was on the other side, that something didn't look like it hit and it did, or whatever it may be. And the inconsistency of the game feels terrible. Right. Like, when the game works, when it's all coming together, when it's running well, when it's consistent, there are a lot of fun things about Ethereal. But whenever those inconsistencies strike, and they do strike pretty often, then that's when the game feels at its worst. And it is frustrating to play and harder to play than it should be. Right. The game is already difficult to learn and play as it is. But then when you're adding the inconsistencies in with a high learning curve, with all these things that you have to understand, and the lane structure and the map structure, and then you're going against an internal tester, right? Then that all leads up to an unfun experience. And there were plenty of times that I saw in their Discord this weekend where someone said, I played one game, got shit on, or I played one game, didn't know what I was doing, and I stopped playing because it wasn't fun or because something broke or whatever. Right? And that sucks to see. For a game trying to succeed, that is probably one of the worst feelings you could, or worst responses you could get, is that they didn't have fun because of something you gave them that didn't let them have fun. Right? Yeah. If it's just an understanding thing, that's one thing. But if you're giving them or not giving them the tools to succeed, and then putting them in matchups against internal testers, which I understand they need players, it's a hard balance to strike. Right? If there's only one game going and three out of the 12 people are testers, then maybe you need those 3 testers in there, but they're going to do well. Even I'm not part of the team anymore, but I have more experience playing the game than the vast majority of people playing it this weekend.
Right.
Definitively had moments where it was just like, well, I'm just unstoppable because I did too much and now I need to bring it back. I'm too strong. I did too much. I went too hard, whatever. I'm used to people playing at that level I'm used to playing against testers, and now I'm playing against people that don't know the game as well. And it sucks that isn't the case for a lot of these new people. There are a ton of new faces that I've seen this test too, but I see them for 1 game or 2 games and then they disappear. And that is a bad sign for Ethereal and what's to come.
So another thing that I think they have an issue with is, and maybe I'm wrong or whatever, but I just feel like the gold drip is too slow, or your prices for your items are too high. Like your initial tier 1 item is like 500 gold. And then you know, for you to get that, then you pretty much have to get 3 of those to get your tier 2, and then you got to get 3 of those again plus some to get your tier 3. And it's like, so you would back you either back or you die so often that it's like you back. It's like, okay, well now, like, how am I supposed to? I can't counter a Kalia if I can't buy item, if I can't like max out an item. Like, okay, here we go, I got magic defense or whatever, or magic magic resist. Here we go, I can counter her now. I couldn't even do that because like I was to the point I was like, I'm literally just buying T1 items a bunch of the times I back because that's all I can afford. I can't actually finish an item because now I'm backing. Nothing feels worse than backing and having 700 gold, but you can't get anything besides another tier 1
Yeah.
Starting another item. It's like, no, I want to actually like build into. I want to work on this. So it's like, what do you do? Like, what do you actually leave and not buy anything and go back to lane that you already were in a bad spot you couldn't do anything with, or do you go back with something trying to help that?
Yeah.
And then when you buy that, then it's like you set yourself back behind even further to get the next tier 2 item. It's like you just set it for failure every time, and it's like that's not a good situation.
Yeah, and that's definitely the tiered item system compared to the component item system, right? PTO and Pred both have component item systems that have smaller cost gold items that help build up into a bigger cost gold item, right? Which then makes the progression feel a little more natural, right? I don't think if it was a component item, like I'm thinking about, like if I was playing Pred and was getting the gold that I'm getting in Ethereal, would it feel better?
I'm listening.
And probably it would, right? In that playing with those items and getting those smaller items more often would feel better, even with the same exact gold drip that I'm getting from minions and camps and kills and whatever, right? But because they have the tiered item system, like Bearded said, you have a 500 or slightly less gold cost on the tier 1, and then it's usually like 12 to 1700, I think, on the tier 2, and then another 1,000 on top of that for tier 3. And that just feels bad. It doesn't feel as natural. That there were several times today during the games I was playing before FTM that like I killed a bunch of minions and I did what felt like a lot of stuff, and I go back and I'm 200 gold short of my tier 2 item. So I buy a tier 1 or 2 tier 1s, go to lane. Next time I back, I'm 200 gold short again. So I sell one of the tier 1s I got previously to then upgrade to a tier 2. And it's hard. And it's different. Again, it goes back to playing the game that you're playing, right? It's different in a way that like I don't like it as much as a component item system, but it's hard for me to say that it's the game's fault and the drip should be faster because it has a different system entirely. And so it's something to definitely keep in mind for the developers that I'd ask them to watch, because, and I hope that there's plans for component item system in the future that may alleviate some of these pains, but it's definitely something that feels a little bit off in the current state of the game right now, especially if you're not going 20-0 in like a lot of the games seem to go during the test at least. Starting things, I'm starting goal, buy a starter and a tier 1. I okay, messed up. I love that idea. Buy a starter and a tier 1, it would feel a lot better. I think that's a great idea. Being able to have a little bit more. It's similar to Pred gives you the crest and the T1 and one of the components. Overprime gives you the spell now, and now you can buy a component. So you have some of those options as well. But yeah, it feels like you're just short every single time you go back to base. And there's definitely a learning curve in that we don't play the game all the time. It may get more and more natural as time goes on, but it's something that has to be kept in mind a little bit for the dev side to make the game feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry about that.
You're
but
fine.
I agree. Like it's something that like, and maybe that's something that because I don't play the game as much as I have the ability to, that I'm just missing something on it. But then again, I'm taking this from the aspect of like we got people coming into this. It's a free test right now. We have new people coming in. I'm not new by any means, but I don't play the game as much as an internal tester as much as you have. And if the game feels this way to me, then it's got to feel that way to them as well. And it's just it's a rough situation. Like, and you're right. You said 20-0-0. Like then you're backing. You're gonna have gold that you just need to whatever.
Yeah.
Or if you're backing when you want to back, that's fine. But if you're on the losing end, how do you counter a snowball effect if when you back you can't buy anything?
Mm-hmm.
You have no way to like, okay, fine, I died. I'm gonna pick this up, and that's gonna stop them. You don't have that ability when you're like the items are so far gapped between. And it's almost like instead of having a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, maybe you have a 5-tier system, and you can have the same gold, separation, but you got to give me something I can advance into, once in between tier 1 and tier 2. Like, give me something I can buy now that I can go back to lane, and I don't feel like I wasted time.
Yeah,
it just hurt, and it made it again. It was so unfun for me on Friday night that I didn't play, and I didn't have the want to play on Saturday, and I didn't have the availability to play on Sunday.
Yep.
And speaking of availability, like as much as I love that they did competitive custom matches, that ruined the rest of their time for anybody else to play. You took all of your testers and all of your devs that were playing these games and helping your community actually play these games, and you took them and put them all in customs to where now the actual community that wants to play your game, you took that away from them.
Yeah.
This is your server time for their server time for them to play this game, and you took that away from them for you to do custom matches and for them to be able to stream it on Twitch or wherever they're streaming from. You could have done that post stream time, right? Or it could have been like a whatever, or you do it early, right? Let's say the server is supposed to open 11. Hey, 10 o'clock before servers open, we're gonna do a competitive customs. Come watch on Twitch, whatever. We'll be gaming, and then we're gonna roll right into the Twitch, right into the servers opening for the regular people opening up. You took away from time from your community, and that hurts actually.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And for me, I have always been a fan of Ethereal. I will probably always be a fan of Ethereal in some capacity, whether I'm happy or sad with their decisions, whether I'm part of the team or not. I will probably always be a fan of them in some ways. This test has been less fun for me than the last test in May was, and it's 100%. Really difficult for me to put my finger on why. Right, something I've been thinking about every time I'm playing a game. But when I was playing in May in their last test, and maybe it was the number of players, the number of games, that it felt fresh every game, right? When I was playing in May, I was finishing a game and going like, man, let's queue up for another one. Like, I'm stoked, I'm in it, like, let's go, I'm having a good time. And I played for longer than I expected to because I was having fun with the game. This time around, I get out of a game and I go like, I could queue up for another one, but like, there's no drive. There's no feeling for me to actually queue up for another one. If anything, the drive for me to queue up for another game is that if I want to get into the game, I have to queue right now because I know there are at least 12 players available and before the next game starts, right? And that's a worse feeling than just feeling like, yeah, you know what, let's play another one, and being able to find a queue pretty consistently. And I don't think the queue's the only problem, but that's definitely part of it.
Queue's not the only problem, and because I agree with you. Like, I've had in May when they had their last test, right? I still had some unfun because I went up against some testers that just decided they were just going to bully you, and it wasn't fun. I had that issue, right? But I've also had games where I wasn't going up against that. I had a game, it wasn't fun, but I had a game that wasn't against a tester, and it was now I feel bad because I forget the person's name. Give me a second. Hammer. I went up against Hammer in the offlane. All right, Hammer was Aron, I was Talos. Well, at that time in May, Aron was the most OP person that you could ever play as, unless you talk to Armadillon, who thinks that Aron wasn't OP, but he got nerfed. So I wonder how that's weird how he got nerfed when he wasn't OP. But anyways, argument definitely aside there, I was able to play multiple games, and I enjoyed playing multiple games. My biggest issue, and I think this is the biggest thing holding Ethereal back, is their lack of and even my viewers that were watching me play Friday night, it's their animations. Their animations are so. I literally felt like I was playing a PS2 game. I feel like I'm playing Diablo on PS2. Like it's like, what is going on here? Like, you guys have the developers of Ethereal have the great ambition, great ideas, and what's going on, and the ability of making this 6v6 MOBA. It's out there and it's great, and I can't wait for something to come of it. But you guys, like the animations and the movements and everything like that, like the mocap suit, like get them up. Like, do not do another test until that mocap's on suit and you get a mocap suit is online and ready to go, and you guys are able to fix these animations, because it's just not worth it at this point. You got to come out. You got to come back with something and fresh, and that's gonna be like, hey, look at the progress we made. Right now, from May to this test, the progress is balance. That's it. And that's not enough to make people like to see. You're not going to see balance. You're going to have to play the game and like, okay, hey, Aron's not busted. That's awesome. You know, that's all you're going to see in that. But if you played in May and you didn't play up against an Aron, you're not going to feel anything different. You know, it's got these in between these tests, you got to show progression, and there's no progression from an outsider's look. There's no progression from May to now. That's the biggest issue.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about it on FTM in the past, that we said for Predecessor that the upgrade to Unreal Engine 5 is not something the players can chew on, right? It's all well and good that between their last test and their release, they upgraded to Unreal Engine 5, right? But effectively, very little to nothing changed between their final test and their release in early access, right? On the dev side, there may be a ton of changes. Yeah, but for things the players to chew on, there were effectively no changes other than Crunch releasing. And Grux, I think. For Ethereal, this test is the same way. It's great that they upgraded the Unreal Engine 5. The lighting is better. But for players to chew on, there's not really a lot. The last test had 3 new characters come out. And I realized that was, I won't say is going to be the norm, but it was something to chew on. It was something new for the players. It was also the new map for the first time that players had played on was in May, right? There were a lot of big changes done for players for them to like chew on and kind of get some satisfaction out of new things being done and all that. Whereas from May to this test, there wasn't really any of those things being done. And they did make some removals, right? They added, and some additions. They removed a button press, or one of the mandatory button presses, which I think is a great change. I think they need to keep moving in that direction to an extent. And then they added auto buy for items and auto level for abilities, which I think are great new player support features. I don't think that they're the new player support features that are helping new players actually get accustomed with what the game is and what they need to be able to get into the game and feel comfortable, even if they're not going to do well, feel comfortable in the game when they're playing new matches, especially with the number of new players we had this test.
Yeah. That actually messed me up real quick. That the auto buy, I didn't realize it was on, because I've been a part of Ethereal for a long time now. I can't tell you exactly when I started. It was the second what's the promotion they do, the
Extra Life.
Extra Life. It was the second Extra Life event that as when I jumped in, right? So I've been going on as long as that is. And I didn't know that the auto buy was turned on automatically for everybody. So I'm sitting there playing, and I'm like, all right. And I clicked on the shield that I wanted for Talos. And when I clicked on it, I didn't know I already bought it. Yep. So I clicked on it, all right. Well, then I looked at my money. I'm like, wait, I have enough to get this. Like, let me get this. Yep. And then I'm like, why won't this buy? I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, why? I'm clicking. I went to other items, clicking, nothing's happening. oh, let me uncheck auto buy. Click like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, well there
and
we
then
go.
it worked
I got
just
what I
fine.
wanted. I'm like, what was that? I'm like, okay. So
It
that
threw
took
me
me a minute
off
to
too.
understand what was going on. I'm like, what is happening here? So I agree though. I don't think that that's the like the thing for the new players in that situation. Like it that's one thing with the ambition of these devs that they definitely have going against them is to make this a new player friendly game, because this is what we've said before in FTM and as I've been on, this is going to be the Dota 2 version compared to a League of Legends, right? It's more things going into it, more skill to understand what's going on. It's gonna be harder for anybody to pick this game up and just be like, hey, I got this, you know. So I think that's something that they need to be less worried about in that situation, because if Dota 2 can survive in that situation, it being a 3D Dota 2, it's possible, right?
Yeah.
You got your predecessor, you got your Ethereal. These two can coexist just like League of Legends, just like Dota 2. Right, it's possible, right? And PTO guys, well, I'll put PTO on there as well. It's there.
He felt the comments already going out there of like, what about Paragon The Overprime?
Right, exactly. right. So you can have that situation happen. If it can happen in a top down, it can happen in a third person. So don't worry about me talking to the Ethereal devs. Don't worry about the new player onboarding in this situation. Worry about the things that are actually going to help progress your game. Right, and again, animations being one of them. You know, the UE5 being another one. It's something that things that are just going to help you get better to your situation. And I just think the biggest thing holding them back, and I've been saying it since that actual life event, is the animations, the mocap suit. Like that, I know they have one on hand. That needs to be taken care of, and whatever they get that up and running, I know it's not easy. It's not something that I expect to be easy. But once that's up and running and they can sit there and make this game just look and feel smoother, they will jump exponentially up, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think feel is an important thing. We talked about button press earlier. We talked about it for a long time. Feel in general for these games being an important factor, and feel for Ethereal is one of the worst experience I've had in gaming in quite some time. Right, and not always. Again, when it works, it feels really good. And then I'm like, yeah, you know what? Right. Things are happening. Things are working together the way they're supposed to. But it falls out of that mold so easily in a lot of cases that I would say it's like 40% of the time it feels like it's in the right spot where it's trying to be. And 60% of the time it feels like something went wrong. Right. And that balance has to shift more to that. Like it's only 10% of the time it feels like something went wrong, or ideally 0%, of course. Right. But I know the game is still very early on. There's still a lot of work to be done on that side of things. And I hope that they get to survive long enough to do those things as well.
Right. It's weird if you think about it. Pred, their game feels as smooth as glass, right? In certain aspects, or in most aspects, right? But then you have their item shop, and it's like the ugliest PlayStation 2 item shop. And then you got Ethereal, and you're playing the game, and you feel like you're playing a PlayStation 2 game. But their item shop is like this beautiful item shop. So if we like just merge these two together, you know, like, give me the smooth glass feel with this item shop. Like it's great.
Yeah,
that's just what we're missing.
I think that's the frustrating thing for a lot of players is when they go from May to this test, the feel of the game did not improve. Right. And like, sure, there may have been smoother frame rates. Sure, there may have been other things, but the feel still stayed the same and on an overall level. And I think that feels like, regardless of whatever else was changed, that feels like there was no improvement made. And that is a sucky feeling for a lot of players that want this game to be going forward. Right. I saw somebody in the Discord the other day, somebody that Joshua Van Noctis, I know you've seen him around.
JVN.
Yeah, JVN. Right. Put a message in Discord the other day that he asked for a refund on his Patreon because he doesn't believe in the project anymore. Right. And whether that is true or not, I'm not here to discuss. I'm taking him at his word. If that's the case, someone that was pretty on board the process, there's a fundamental problem. Right. And that's a concerning thing to see happening.
I mean, I put into the Patreon, I had a goal. I hit my goal. All right, now I've taken out of the Patreon, right? But the more I go, the more that I'm worried that I put money into a Patreon that it just like it does like I'm be honest, my confidence is wavering. I do want the game to succeed. I love the ambition of the devs. I love all the devs that I've worked with. You being one of them at the time. Skifter being another one. Even War Dancer. I know War Dancer isn't with them anymore. Like I've always had great interaction with all the devs, and so they're a great team. I'm just as this is taking. I've watched Fault go from like a hardly playable game. But I played all the way through of it to where I was confident this game's actually got somewhere to go, and they just shut down shop because they just fell out of passion.
Yep.
That was the biggest thing with Fault. A lot of people think Fault was just bad. It got canceled. No, the developers lost the passion to develop it. And so I watched that happen in the time frame that I'm watching Ethereal, just baby steps on moving. And it's like, something needs to happen for you guys to move a little bit quicker, right? People complain about Predecessor, about how long it's been. Look where they're at. They're not doing anything. They're light years ahead of Ethereal right now. I get they have more funding than Ethereal does at that point, but I've been saying but they're both all these companies are indie dev companies, and they're making bounds, in strides compared to what Ethereal's doing, and Ethereal needs to catch up a little bit. I'm not saying they need to come out, be free to play as soon as Pred's free to play, but you need to be a little bit more ahead of schedule than what you are right now.
Yeah. And that's, I think about it. It was a video that I worked on toward the end of last year, but they did the year in review video of like all the things that Ethereal updated in 2022. Right. And all the announcements that they made and all that kind of stuff. And there was a lot of stuff in that video, new characters, new map, the whole 9 yards. Right. And then if I think about like at the end of this year for Ethereal, if they made the same video over again, what are the things that I would say they did in this year that they could put in that video? Unreal Engine 5, which will be not impossible, a very difficult thing to portray in a video like that.
Yes.
Right. Again, it's not a thing for players to chew on. Right. And Kalia was technically announced in that last year in review video. So 2 additional characters being XCL and Malware. That's about it, right? Like when I think about, unless something happens between now and the end of the year, but the end of the year is approaching, right? We're in 9 out of 12 months. Unless something changes between the end of the year, that video will have next to nothing in it, right? And even for slower Predecessor, right? If they did a year in review video, they at least released a hero every single month, or every single month up until now, September, and it'll be a month and a half. But they have things to put in that video. The time to kill changed, the Fangtooth changed, right? They have a lot of things that they can add in there. In that year in review, Ethereal doesn't have a lot of that same stuff for players to chew on, for players to feel and understand on their side of things. Agreed.
And Pectoral says Pred Overprime also have a lot of assets pre-made compared to Ethereal, and I agree with that. And again, that's where I'm saying they don't need to be on par with Pred and Overprime in the sense of like they're ready to come free to play, in the next in 2024, right? But there's just like you looking at May to now, there hasn't been much improved, and you need to have that for a player, a community member to again, like what Jelly was saying, for you to sink your teeth into. And there's nothing that we've had that right now. And and again, I've been following it for, again, that second extra life situation. And it feels like that my ability to sink my teeth into is getting less and less and less as we go. And when it should be getting, or at least it should be staying stagnant, if anything. Like we're still getting more, but I'm still sinking my teeth into something. But I'm not. It's not getting higher, but it's not getting lower. It's actually getting lower, is how it feels to me.
I'll go back to what I said earlier about Predecessor, and applies to all of these games. Seeing improvement over time, right? I'm not expecting you to be at 100% out the gate, but if you're at 5% out the gate, I want you to be able to get to 6% the next time I hear from you, or 7%, or whatever it may be. Right. And Ethereal doesn't do that. Ethereal has almost never done that. Right. And I will remove any time that I worked for the company out of this statement because I bias, whatever you want to call it. Right. But before I joined the company, it was either update, you're living on high, or famine. Right. Like if you had nothing going on, no changes, no anything. right? And it feels like that again, where the May test was a little bit of a feast, and that we had the new map, we had the new heroes, we had all that stuff. And now we're back at the famine section where they upgraded the UE5, which is great, but I as a player don't have anything for that, right? Maybe a little more consistent frames. And so that's, I would rather see them consistently improve over time than always do the best thing every single time. And that's where I want to see a lot of that improvement coming from them if they make it far enough. And I do worry that the falling out of passion for the game is a potential outcome for the developers, or that they get so blinded by the fact that they're working on the game that they start missing obvious things, right? And that both sides are equally valid and possible for the game, and that makes me sad as a Ethereal fan, but it is what it is.
Right. Nope. Yeah, it sucks. I want to correct something. Not correct. I want to say something in the chat. Inter said that I don't think passion was the problem. They had money like 8 months. No, that's not true. It's not a true statement at all. There was other things going on. Again, I have a little more insider information. I'm not going to disclose all names and stuff like that, but I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not true. It literally was a passion situation. The founders fell out. The founders of Fault fell out of passion, and they basically took the rug out of everybody, all the developers out of it, right? So it was a surprise to everybody. So that's your biggest information. I'm not gonna disclose my sources or disclose my sources, but that's what's going on, and I no reason to lie about it.
And I do want to go back to Pectoral, something I read, and I meant to address it then, and I forgot, so I apologize. But mocap in video games that are not narrative based is a very common thing. It's just not as easy to notice because the games that they typically go into, it's not something you're looking for, right? A game like For Honor, they almost entirely use mocap animations for every single one of their characters. Apex Legends uses a lot of mocap in their game. I won't say for everything, but I know for quite a bit, Apex Legends uses mocap. So in competitive setting games, mocap is a thing that has existed in the industry, but it has to be done well. And that's where a lot of it comes from.
Sure. For sure. No, and I agree with that. Did you play King's Hunt real quick? I know that's completely off.
Not this weekend, because I know they opened up servers yesterday.
Friday the 15th or
something like that. Yeah, but I did play it back when it was open.
I played it back when it was open too. I saw they're opening it for a little bit. I wanted to get into it, but I didn't have a chance.
I completely forgot, if I'm honest. I wanted to, but I completely forgot. I saw
they're opening back up. I'm like, ooh, I'm excited. Again, I brought that up to you before any of these games. I don't care if it's Ethereal, if it's PTO, or if it's Predecessor. King's Hunt, it's like a perfect side quest, or that side. What's the word I'm looking for? The different mode. It's a perfect mode, change of mode for one of these games. Like you literally could play the normal 5v5 match, and then here you go. Here's like this, King's Quest mode that you play.
100%.
It would be perfect in one of these games, and I would love to see something like that. Or if they were able to build upon their own game, that'd be great as well. But if they're not, like, that's something that I think we need to pull. One of these three need to pull into it.
Quick aside about King's Hunt actually as well. If you guys are fans of King's Hunt or have seen King's Hunt in the past, I would highly suggest you go read the message they sent out, because one of the things they talked about doing in order to keep their studio alive in the last 9 months is they took third-party dev work that they did. Yeah. They were the outsource of work for other studios on their video games, which is such a great idea. And I love the fact that that's what they did, because it gives them a lot of context and understanding in the industry from some, we don't know who they worked for, but from some potential bigger people in the space to learn a lot of information from. So I love that. That's just what I wanted to mention. Super big fan of their most recent post about that kind of stuff. But Bearded,
it's like PTO real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
It's like PTO. It's a, what's a word? It's like a poor man's version of Soul Leaf working with Netmarble.
Yep.
They have Netmarble just to, like, they're literally right here. Like, any questions I have, you can answer. This is a poor man's version of it. Like, hey, I'm working with this company for this brief time. Let me ask all the questions I need to ask and get as much information I can out of them while I'm doing for them. In that situation, you're able to do a lot of that. So that's a great move by them for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bearded, any final thoughts on Ethereal?
I again, I already said it, but my biggest thing is I wouldn't come back. Like, this test right here, and seeing the fact that you're shutting servers down earlier than what you scheduled, and the fact that you're only getting like one game per 12 people playing at a time, it's rough compared to the May alpha. Now, if you can figure something else as a dev, why you didn't get the output or the people were playing the actual volume of players, then fine. But if you don't have the volume of players, don't come back out until like something like the mocap suit is taken care of and animated. You have something for us to sink our teeth into.
Yeah.
And I want to say I literally, I guess maybe that's just how passionate I am about this mocap suit. Like or animations in general. It doesn't have to be a mocap suit. Just fix the animations, not to feel like a PlayStation game, a PlayStation 2 game. Is because even if you were to drop Grognark and put Grognark in the game, to me, like, yeah, it's a new myth I get to play, but like it's just not enough. I don't think.
Yeah.
Like because the game itself, I streamed it a little bit on Friday, and my viewers are like, yeah, you're right. This does look like a PlayStation 2 game. Like it is pretty lackluster in the movements and stuff. So the map itself visually is amazing, but like just the movement and the hero myth movement is pretty bad. So I would say hold off until you finally get that taken care of. Like that's should be your main focus. Whatever we got to do, even if it's third party outsourcing. I know they probably can't even afford it, but if that's what it is to get the animations working, do what you got to do to get that up and running, because that's your biggest setback from everybody that I've ever talked to.
Yeah. Yeah, and they go a long way. Those animations go a long way to making the game feel better, play better, feel more fun, whatever you want to call it. Right? They do a lot for that. One of the things I mentioned earlier, JVN said that he was asking for a refund on his Patreon. One of the specific things that he called out is he said, I went in there, I wanted to play Exiel, and Exiel feels awful. Right? And like that turned him off entirely. Right. And I agree with JVN almost 100%. I think out of all the characters in the game right now, Exiel probably feels the worst in terms of the way his animations look and feel and the like stiffness behind him. He probably feels the worst. And Malaya, which is funny because they're siblings, is a close second.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, and JVN's been looking forward to Sexiel for the longest time.
Exactly. Like, and
that is you could release 30 more heroes and Sexiel is the one that JVN's been wanting.
Yeah.
Right. So the fact that his one that he's been looking forward to is the one that feels so bad, it just sucks in that situation.
And it's going to be a hard thing to combat without some major updates and changes to the heroes and how they feel in the systems and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're doing this even Exiel had a rework to his kit.
To an extent,
they've already done it. Yeah, they've already done a rework to him as well. So if even after the rework, he's still feeling bad. To me, a lot of that is just the animations. Like you click in a button, because you do Talos. Yeah, you click the button and his body moved, and you saw a ring around you real quick, and it's supposed to pull people into you, but it didn't. Like the animation didn't show that. It didn't look good and feel good. Like I said, my biggest thing that Viking Jedi always said is when you click a button, it should feel good when you click that button. You're not getting these buttons you're pushing aren't feeling good with Ethereal. And the reason the biggest reason they're not feeling good is because the animations that correlated with that button aren't operating the way they're supposed to. These buttons, again, I hate to harp on it, but if these buttons, if we were playing a PS2 game, these buttons would feel fucking amazing. This game would be the best game we've ever fucking played.
We're only about 20 years too late. Yeah.
Right. That's what it is. And again, I know it's harsh in that situation, but it's true. Like, I only say it because that's really what it makes me feel like. It'd be different if it'd be different if it literally felt like a PS4 game, but it doesn't. A PS4 game, I could sit here, I could literally turn my PS4 on right now. I go play it. My son's got it. He plays my PS4. I go play a game with him and actually feel good playing a game.
Yep.
If I hooked up a PS2 right now, I'm gonna feel like, man, why am I not just playing my PC? Like, I should just play my PC. What am I doing playing this game right now? That's what I feel like when I play Ethereal. Like, what am I doing playing this right now when I have all these other games on my desktop? that actually feel good to push buttons. Like that's the biggest thing in my opinion. So they have to work on that's their number one goal in my opinion. They need to fix that. Buttons should feel good, and that's going to happen by animation.
Yeah. And I'll say to even it out and to make sure that all three games got the same question there at the end and we end on a positive note, what is the one thing that you think Undying Games has done successfully with Ethereal?
Ambition. Their ambition has always been amazing. I love what they literally but then their ability to dial back their ambition, right? They like I remember when Undying Games when they first came out, it was going to be 3 lanes stacked on top of each other, right? Yeah. And then they were like able to sit there and be like, hey, you know, you got people that will sit there like, nope, I'm gonna run through this wall where it's gonna happen. Even though they got a wall in front of them, they're gonna run through it. They're not successful because it's a wall and you're not gonna run through it. Then they fail, right? They were able to see like, hey, we got a wall here. We need to make a door. All right. They made a door. Here we go. Now we got three lanes that are like all different levels from each other, and they've kind of compromised in a situation. So they still have their huge ambition, but they're able to see when they're hitting a wall and understand that they're hitting a wall and adjust accordingly. So that's the best thing they have for them.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Bearded, thank you so much for joining us on FTM, or me on FTM today. I'm so used to there being 3 people.
I know. I miss Mangoose. I miss Mangoose.
But thank you for joining me on FTM. I think we had some great conversations about all 3 games. Didn't get too crazy spicy, you know, but no, but I really appreciate it.
I promise you.
Bearded, where can people find you? Where can they find your information? All that kind of stuff.
All right. You can find me on what you call it. Actually, you call it Twitter. I still call it Twitter because I'm a boomer. So you can find me on Twitter at T_B_Wolverine. You can also find me live on Kick Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it's football season. So my nephew plays football. So Thursdays are kind of up in the air. Depends if it's a home or away game. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, possible Thursdays on Kick at the Bearded Wolverine on that. And then Wednesdays is the Predcast. So anybody if you're watching this, you enjoy the Parazombies in some sort, most likely. So the Predcast is a great outlet for us to, as a community, to get information put out, to let the devs know how we feel about the game. And it's also a great spot for you to come. We have the devs come on. Like last week, we had the lead game designer come on and explain some situations. We got great information coming from them. We've already got a agreement worked with RGS Ace, also known as Robbie, for coming on. We were supposed to be quarterly, but this last quarter he wasn't able to make it on because he's doing a lot of stuff going on. So he's supposed to be coming on around October time. So we'll get RGS Ace back on for another time. So that's a great spot. So again, you catch it live on my channel, the Bearded Wolverine on Kick, on Wednesday nights, or usually around 7:30. If you don't catch it live, you can also catch it on Windu the Mesa's channel on YouTube. We get it posted the next day after around noon. Eastern Standard Time. But that's the biggest thing with me. I'm just here. I'm trying to help these games grow as much as I can. I'm trying to get as much, what's the word I'm looking for? Criticism put out there where it's needed, but also provide the positive. What's the word I'm looking for? Like give them the credit where they deserve credit. You know, when credit's due, give them the pat on the back they deserve with all these games, because I do enjoy them. I just enjoy one of them more than the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll definitely have links to everything in the description on the YouTube video, which will go up live tomorrow. Everybody in chat, thank you guys for hanging out here with us. It's been super great. The feedback and the conversation has been awesome. And yeah, so I'm JellyKnees. This will be on my YouTube. It's on my Twitch now. So if you're here, you're here.
You're here. Hey, make sure you follow. And if you got the money, hit the sub button here on on this Twitch channel. All right.
There you go.
Show
Thanks,
some love.
Thanks, Bearded. If you made it this far on YouTube, hit subscribe. And yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
That's free. Hit that subscribe.
Yeah, that's free. And if I want to do the stereotypical like YouTube plug, 70% of my viewers are not subscribed. So no, I appreciate it, everybody. And we'll talk to you guys again real soon.